Just the third time in its 76-year history, Ohio Stadium is hosting football under the lights as Ohio State meets Wyoming in the inaugural State Farm Eddie Robinson Classic. Eddie Robinson took his first steps towards coaching history 56 years ago. Just 22 then, he took over the Grambling football program. Eddie did it all. He was head coach, he taped ankles, even mowed and lined the field. Years later, his dedication paid off with his 324th career victory, crowning him as the winningest college coach ever. His place in coaching history is assured, but at 78, he hasn't let up. Eddie is still drilling and pushing his players, helping them realize their full athletic potential. But it doesn't stop there. Eddie is committed to the total person, passing along knowledge and offering guidance of the sort that will serve these young men for a lifetime. Eddie Robinson, a unique blend of fierce competitor and gentle teacher, most worthy of this game, honoring all his accomplishments. And just moments before kickoff tonight on the field at Ohio Stadium, the great coach Eddie Robinson honored with a plaque commemorating this first annual State Farm Eddie Robinson Football Classic benefiting the Black Coaches Association. Welcome to Ohio Stadium and our very first maiden voyage of college football for '97 here in Ohio. Dave Barnett and Todd Blackledge, and compared to Eddie Robinson, John Cooper, a mere coaching teenager of 60, but he found a way to get the detractors off his back. You have to win a Rose Bowl to do that here, but a lot of those guys, especially on defense, are up in the NFL now. Yeah, everybody talks about Orlando Pace, and you're never going to replace a player like Pace, but the real losses on this team are going to be felt on defense. 9 new faces in the starting lineup tonight. However, there will be one familiar face. Middle linebacker Andy Katzenmoyer returns. Now, this guy lived up to his billing and more as a true freshman last year. This year, he'll be counted on to not only make plays, but also to provide leadership. And a telling comment from John Cooper yesterday says, facing Dana Dimel in his coaching debut, he has never played a team that he knows less about than Wyoming tonight. Well, none of the coaches at Ohio State know what to expect. Will they run Kansas State stuff, Wyoming stuff, Memphis stuff? If there is an advantage that Wyoming has, it's this. But with Dana Dimel, he's a young guy. He comes in here with great enthusiasm and confidence, and he sold his team on 2 things. First of all, he said, guys, this is not the same Ohio State team that won 11 games last year and finished number 2. And secondly, if it's still 0-0 10 minutes into the game turns in our favor. That's a real tall order with all the skill guys in red jerseys. And one reason the Cowboys didn't hesitate to accept this bid to play at Ohio State the first game of the year. This is their bowl game, they figured, that they didn't get for going 10-2 last year. Let's send it to the studio and welcome Chris Fowler.
Dave, Todd, thank you. Looking forward to seeing all the new Buckeye faces. The same old faces, Lee Corso and Kirk Herbstreit, will join me at halftime as they look ahead to week number 1. In the meantime, other games underway tonight. Tulsa and Cincinnati are playing. Cincy looking for a 3rd straight winning season for the first time since the middle 70s. They have a touchdown to match the John Mosley 1-yard touchdown run. Temple and Western Michigan combined 3-19 last year. Western has just jumped on top with a field goal. Tomorrow, 90 minutes of college football coverage starts at 7:30 Eastern Time. The college football preview show. We'll look ahead at the season. Then the weekend kickoff show presented by Coors Light. A look at the matchups in week number 1. We'll see you back here at halftime, but kickoff from Columbus is coming up next.
93,000 plus, even though school is still a few weeks away from the fall session here in Columbus. Wyoming and Ohio State. And growing up about a mile from Ohio Stadium, Dana Dimel never actually got in to see a Buckeye game. Huge fan, never had season tickets, but a proud member of the Upper Arlington High School class of '81. What emotions must be going through not only Dana Dimel, but his even prouder father, John Dimel, who is with Merrill Hodge.
John, you've been an Ohio State fan your whole life. How difficult is it to come here tonight and root against Ohio State?
Well, it's something I've never done. All my life I've been an Ohio State fan. I can remember.
Now, Ohio State fans, for good luck, they put a Buckeye in their pocket. Do you have a Buckeye in your pocket?
Not tonight.
That seals it, guys. He is a Wyoming fan tonight.
And if you do the job we fully anticipate you will, Merrill, maybe you get that Buckeye tonight.
Well, this has got to be thrilling for Dana Dimel. I mean, what a storybook way to open your head coaching career. As you mentioned, Upper Arlington is literally a stone's throw from the stadium here. He grew up loving the Buckeyes. He never came to a game, but he used to sneak in on Sundays with his buddies and throw the ball around. So this is a great thrill for this young coach starting in Division I football.
Ohio State has won the toss. They've elected to kick to start this inaugural 1997 game. And Dan Stultz will send it to either Marcus Brigham or Mike Jenkins for the Wyoming Cowboys. A bid against the odds at respect, not only for their Cowboy program off 10 wins but no bowl, but for the entire Western Athletic Conference tonight. And a relatively short kick down to Marcus Brigham at the 6-yard line. And a nice return out across the 33-yard line for Brigham of 28 yards. The Wyoming offense last year led the nation in passing, 3rd overall in total offense, but new faces, beginning with a quarterback, Jeremy Silcox, who replaces the nation's total offense leader, Josh Woolworth. In addition to these fine skill people, Hooker at tight end, to running court at one wide out, Brunson at the other. Up front, a lot of new faces, headed by Bollinger, Hamilton, Fort Smith, and Shane Glauser. Ohio State said they had basically no idea what to expect, but hardly can be surprised with 4 wideouts and 1 setback on first down. And Brigham makes the 36 before he is wrapped up by Jerry Rudzinski, the outside linebacker for the Ohio State defense, which led the nation in pass defense efficiency last year. Lots of new faces, only 3 returning starters. Garnett, one of them, up front with Daybell and LeVar. Katzenmoyer, a very comforting sight, no doubt, for John Cooper, just a sophomore, but everybody's freshman of the year in the Big Ten last year. And the best corners they feel in the country are gone, and Winfield and Plummer inherit those jobs. Barry and McClellan, where Damon Moore and Shea Bryant were at safety a year ago. Incomplete, intended for Wendell Montgomery.
There was a lot of question coming into the game because people talked about Dana Dimel coming from Kansas State. They thought they would have a little more 2-back offense, but this is the old Wyoming pass offense. 1 back, 3 or 4 wide receivers on the first 2 plays of the game. So they're trying to spread out the Ohio State defense early by formation, opening up some things offensively.
Silcox, even though he's a senior, has really seen very little action through just 27 passes last year. Completed 12. And early movement by the Cowboys.
They're going to get the left tackle, Rob Bollinger, for moving a little bit in his
Dead
stance.
Ball, simulating the start of the snap on the offense. 5 yards, 3rd down.
Ohio State did a lot of jumping around there, showing blitz on this 3rd down play, and it caused a little flinching up front. A long snap count. Watch the top of your screen, or the bottom of your screen, 55 Bollinger. A lot of movement by the Ohio State defensive front 7 caused that movement up front.
So what was to be a 3rd and 8 turns into call it a long 3rd and 12 for the Cowboys.
They can ill afford to have many situations like that in this ball game. They can't have these 3rd and long situations.
Silcox out of the shotgun has all day, but overthrows Montgomery. Got a little jostle as he arrived at the out-of-bounds stripe at midfield by Gary Berry, who timed his arrival perfectly.
You know, I think this was kind of a message that John Cooper is sending to his football team. As you look at Silcox, really has nowhere to go with the football. Good choice of throwing it to the sideline. Either his man can get it or nobody can, but a good message by Cooper. They said there's all the questions about our defense. We won the toss, but let's put our defense on the field first and let them make an early statement in the ball game.
Rose Bowl hero David Boston, who caught the winning touchdown pass against Arizona State, back for Aaron Langley's kick at the 22. And about 7 on Boston's return. 47-yard boot by Langley. The Ohio State offense has fewer changes than they have on the defensive side. Stanley Jackson back, figures to start not only tonight, much, maybe most of the year. We will see Joe Germain. Keller, the new fullback. Pearson, almost 1,500 yards, back for his senior year at tailback. Boston, they figure, according to Cooper, could develop to be their best wide receiver ever. What a mouthful that is. He's along the receiving core with Miller and Lumpkin. Walter takes the place of the irreplaceable Orlando Pace. Golston moving from the other tackle to take over at center for Juan Porter. LaShawn Daniels, the other member of that amazing threesome, including Pace up front. And right to the air for Boston, who makes the over-the-shoulder catch at the 33 and a marker down after the 38-yard hookup with Jackson.
I think they're going to get offensive pass interference on Boston on this play. A little push-off late down the field right before the ball got there.
Pass interference on the offense. 15 yards from the previous spot. Repeat, first down.
Ohio State loves the speed that they have out on the wide receiver. Here's Boston working against Janae Jackson, who Wyoming feels is their best corner, right there with the left arm. You saw the push-off right before the ball got there. I don't know, a little bit of a cheap call, but the rule is there is no contact allowed once you get beyond a certain point on the field, and Boston clearly pushed with his left hand before the ball got there.
He's 6'3", though. Jackson at 5'8". Boston probably won't need to do much pushing off tonight.
You know, and that was a good throw by Stanley Jackson, too. It goes for naught here as they bring it back, but he laid that ball exactly where you want, right over the outside shoulder.
Down.
So back from the 20, they will go.
I think this is one of the real key strategic matchups in the ball game is the corners of Wyoming against the speed receivers for Ohio State. Wyoming feels their guys can cover man-to-man, and they're going to try to play man-to-man and be aggressive. Ohio State does not think they can stay with their wide receivers. They're going to challenge them from the very beginning.
And they're going to have to respot it yet again. 20 didn't seem right. They meant the 15.
First game for the officials, too.
Everybody's got some kinks. John Cooper saying flat out yesterday he did not think that, as athletic as they are, Jackson and Duncan at 5'8" and 5'9" respectively, the Wyoming corners could keep up with receivers that are as big and as skilled as Boston and Miller. So it took them exactly one play to test that theory. And now first and 25. Jackson for Miller that time, and a little bit too tall. He had Duncan close to him defensively.
Well, really, the only chance that Wyoming has in this game defensively is to be aggressive. As you take a look at the starting front four, they're going to try to move the line of scrimmage, try to stunt and move while Ohio State's into their cadence. Jim Talich, the middle linebacker, their leading tackler the last 3 years, really kind of the leader on this team. And the two corners, Janae Jackson and Robbie Duncan, right after Cooper told us that, Dimmel said he thinks they can cover these guys, so we'll see tonight.
And not only that, they have no choice but to try to go one-on-one with the wideouts, or else they'll run on them all day. First carry by Pepe Pearson reaches the 20. It'll be third and still about 20 needed. Greg Van Leer made the tackle.
Pepe Pearson is kind of a guy on a mission this year. Take a look now at the comparisons between the wide receivers and the cornerbacks. You see 5'8" and 5'9". That's not really that unusual. Usually the defensive backs are a little faster than wide receivers, but in this case, that's not necessarily true. The Ohio State wide receivers just as fast as the Wyoming corners.
By saying that, we're talking sub 4.4 all around. On third and call at 19, Jackson chased and will keep what appear to be stopped about a yard shy, maybe a couple of feet shy of the first down marker. Finally knocked out by the free safety, Brian Lee. And Jeff Leonard from defensive end chased him all the way over. And already the crowd wanting Cooper to go for it, but I don't think so. First drive of the year, their own 38, not quite that bold.
It's a big reason why Stanley Jackson is still the starting quarterback, is that extra dimension that he provides your offense, his ability to take a non-play and turn it into a positive play. And we saw him in the shotgun there, something new for Ohio State. The quarterback in the shotgun on third down did a nice job tucking it and run, almost picking up the first down.
Brett Bartholomew, third-year starter, coming off his best season ever. And a beauty down to Mike Jenkins, who cannot escape. A 48-yard boot by Brent Bartholomew, and the Cowboys, with 12:42 to go, scoreless with Ohio State.
Brought to you by Nissan, who reminds you that life's a journey. Enjoy the ride.
And Brutus in his initial appearance of 1997. Well, 2 minutes and 18 seconds into their goal of a scoreless first 10 minutes. The Cowboys take it on offense for the second time.
And again, the one back. No two back yet. Still their normal 3 wide receiver, 1 back set.
And a nice hole opens up on the left side for Marcus Brigham. Kevin Johnson from outside linebacker making the tackle. Brigham replacing Len Sexton, who did a lot of damage from that 1 back set last year.
Brigham really has good speed. Watch, you're going to run right off the block of Bollinger, the left tackle. Watch as Brigham just reads the block. If he takes him inside, he'll cut outside. That's all it took. It wasn't an overpowering block by Bollinger, but enough to spring Brigham into the backfield.
Mike Patolo has checked in. First time we see the fullback. And intended for Marcus Brunson, who turned late and inside for a pass that was thrown early and outside by Jeremy Silcox.
The Wyoming coaches really feel that Brunson has great speed and the ability to go by some people. You see he's there, but there's a safety coming over to the top to help. The wide receiver, he needs to kind of widen that to the sideline to give his quarterback a little better angle to make the throw. Actually, Silcox very lucky that ball was not intercepted.
Brunson, yet another very fast Cowboy. Fastest 55-meter time in the country this year, 6.03. So they look forward to getting him loose long tonight. This is Wendell Montgomery for a first down, and Gary Berry preventing what might have been 50-60 yards at least. Holds him to 13 before he drags him out.
Take a look at the protection now. Here comes the blitz. 6 men coming on the rush. Katzenmoyer is going to get a hit on the quarterback, but Silcox does a nice job staying in there in the pocket, knowing he's going to get hit and making the good throw. I mean, that's what you have to do as a quarterback. You know they're going to hit you. You have to stay your ground and make the good throw to the sideline. Wyoming gets the first down.
With Silcox's best throw of the evening, so good for 13. Out of the eye for the first time. Brigham smothered. Central McClellan up from strong safety.
You know, we wondered how long or if Damon Moore was going to play. He's not in there in the regular personnel, but he is in there on the nickel. He was in on that 3rd down. Take a look at the pursuit by the Ohio State defense. Great team speed, and Central McClellan making his first start as a strong safety feels very nice in the running game. If you get that running back turning sideways and moving laterally to the line of scrimmage, it really is going to make it tough to gain yardage. That's what you want to do. Your inside guys make them run laterally. Let your safeties and linebackers finish them off.
So their initial foray into the I formation unsuccessful. A loss of 1, 2nd and 11. Silcox out of the shotgun. And lucky that they get that one back. That one bouncing off the shoulder pads of Ryan McClendon, with Antoine Winfield right there. Jeremy Silcox has followed Josh Woolworth not only to Wyoming, but they're both out of Tracy, California. They both went to Gavilan College in Gilroy, California. And that's really where the similarities end. The Wyoming coaches feel that he is a steadier man at the helm than Woolworth, but much less likely to make the spectacular play. And Josh Woolworth made that time and again last year. This one is picked off by Winfield. At the 46 of Wyoming, first turnover of the season for the new look Buckeye defense.
See, the problem that Jeremy Silcox is having right now is he's really staring down his receiver. Watch him look to the right, and he never looks away from where he wants to throw the football. That allowed Antoine Winfield to just find the hole. Watch Winfield, number 11, just kind of fall into the play. He was watching the eyes of Jeremy Silcox all the way. He left his man and dropped into the hole to make the interception.
Silcox realizing, I'm sure, that he really did telegraph that one, and a terrific athletic stretching kick by Winfield. Bethany Pearson testing the middle for about 5 to the 40. Brian Brown made the tackle.
The reason a turnover like that is so devastating for a football team like Wyoming coming in here is because you give Ohio State the short field. You know they have got great people on offense and they're going to be able to move the football, but you want to make them move the long field. Make them start on the 20 at least and move 80 yards to get a touchdown. When you get that turnover and give them the ball inside the 50-yard line, it really puts the pressure on your defense.
They just don't need any help on that Ohio State side, and the Cowboys just handed him a big load of help. Jackson, a lot of room if he wants to keep, and he will. Great move to get around Brown. Back with the cut back toward the middle, and Jackson's in the end zone. Mercy, 41 yards. Jeremy Silcox setting up the Buckeyes, and it took all of 2 plays for the amazing athleticism of Stanley Jackson to make itself a force for the Buckeyes. The extra point by Dan Stultz and a 7-0 Ohio State lead. Well, the Ohio State coaches say Joe Germain's a better than average running quarterback, but he is not the specimen that Jackson is.
Right. Now watch this guy right here, Brian Brown. Vic Koenig, the defensive coordinator, told us the one thing this team has not done well last year or early in camp is tackle well. He said he thinks he can get guys in position as long as they make the plays. Brian Brown was in position but could not make the play on Stanley Jackson. Jackson is a very elusive runner. He brings that extra dimension to the Ohio State offense. But this is a case where the defense called was correct. They had a guy in position to make a play, but it was just a case of a guy, Stanley Jackson, making a better play. Just great open field running, great vision by Stanley Jackson.
And 1, 2, 3 rather half-hearted arm tackle attempts, all the Cowboys could manage, as Silcox's pick turns into Buckeye points. And Winfield, who provided the possession, first man to celebrate on the Ohio State bench.
You said it a minute ago. I mean, Ohio State is too good of a football team, playing at home, ranked very high, great talent, that you don't want to give them any help. And Jeremy Silcox gave him a little help with that interception, and Brian Brown gave him a little help right there, missing the tackle on Stanley Jackson.
Stultz is keeping deeper this time, and Jenkins return to the 31-yard line, where that man Winfield again makes the stop. 31-yard return for Mike Jenkins, and Silcox, like a good Cowboy, hopping right back on the horse that just threw him.
Oh, he has to. I mean, that's a key for a good quarterback. He's got to be able to shake that off, come back out, and really get his team ready to go again.
Cowboys want to throw it, but not throw it as often as you expect a Wyoming team, or really a whack team period, to throw it. 30 to 35 passes per game, their goal this year. That's if they don't fall too far behind.
Well, they're trying to spread Ohio State's defense out to open some lanes in the running game. This formation is for the run as much as the pass.
Again, good protection, and snagged by Montgomery in the open field across midfield with 20 yards before Ahmed Plummer makes the tackle. This is the guy, Todd, that they figure may be the replacement eventually for the Bolitnikoff Award winner last year, Marcus Harris.
Yeah, this is great protection up front. Montgomery is going to be the go-to guy, and that's a good throw by Silcox. You like to see that, shake off the turnover, come right back in and make the good throw out to midfield.
Proud receiver tradition, not only Harris, but before him Ryan Yarbrough. And each left Wyoming is the all-time receiving yards career leader in the NCAA. Silcox out of the shotgun again for Montgomery, and again open, perfectly arced at the 23 in front of Gary Berry for 27 more yards.
The reason they think Montgomery will be better, or potentially better, than Marcus Harris is because he's got better speed. He's got the same kind of body type at 6'2", 209 pounds, but he's faster than Marcus Harris was, and that's 2 perfect throws in a row by Jeremy Silcox. Watch him working on Gary Berry. He's a safety, but in this case, he's in man-to-man coverage, and really is not close enough to Wendell Montgomery to make a play. Good throw and catch, Silcox to Montgomery.
Now, first time they went high, they lost a yard. So they'll try it again with Patone to Brigham. Much better effort this time to the 20 before he is turned back.
Even though Silcox is a senior, he is really like a freshman out there playing because he's not played at all. You know, he only threw the ball or threw 27 passes last year as Walwork's backup. So this is basically his first year of playing. So it's like being a freshman, and the idea of learning to look off the defense and not stare down a receiver, those are things he's going to have to learn as he goes.
And Dana Dimel not liking what he's got out there, so quickly burns his first time out.
I think he's got too many guys on the field, and that's why he wanted a timeout call.
The offensive player came in, did not participate for 1 down. 5 yards.
And Jim Kemmerling's got him nailed even before he could get the timeout call.
That's the other thing that you can't afford to have in a game like this. You can't afford to have turnovers in your area of the field, and you can't afford to have negative plays. You can't afford to have a nice drive going and then knock yourself in the pants with a 5-yard penalty that puts you at 2nd down and 13, 2nd down and 12 like they have now. You can't afford many negative plays in a game like this.
So back it up to a 2nd and 12. Again out of the eye from the 25. Play fake and overthrown. The intended receiver, the 3rd tight end, Sterling Keyhead. Jerry Rudzinski not buying the play fake.
Well, they had what they wanted. They had it, but Rudzinski was into the quarterback's face so quickly that Silcox just had to get rid of the football. A good hard rush off the corner by Rudzinski. He didn't buy the fake of the run. He stayed his course and was right in the quarterback's face, forcing the early throw.
3 wides this time, and they all go wide right. Jenkins the lone setback.
Comes a blitz again.
Blitz comes again. Katson Moyer at the head of it. Jenkins, the hot receiver, will reach only the 21-yard line, where Winfield has him wrapped up.
Well, what a great play by Antoine Winfield also, because this play was set up pretty well. Here's Winfield right here in the corner. Watch him read the screen. And this, against a blitz, a screen can be a very effective play. If he gets behind the blockers, he might score. Winfield does a nice job slipping in between the Wyoming blockers and making the good open field tackle. Great play by Antoine Winfield.
It's one of the best kickers in America, Corey Weedle, who will try a 38-yarder and knocks it right through. His first attempt of the year. Now 41 of 52 lifetime. Senior from Burlington, Colorado, has the Wyoming Cowboys on the board in Columbus. Regular season schedule, most they've ever played in the regular year. They also have Hawaii. They hope they have a return in early December to the WAC championship, which they lost in overtime to Brigham Young in Las Vegas last December. Return by Gary Berry. Ends in a pile at the 22. Join us tomorrow at 7:30 on ESPN. Chris Fowler, Lee Corso, Kirk Herbstreit, all previewing the wide open chase for the national championship title. A look at quarterbacks Ron Paulus of Notre Dame and Peyton Manning of Tennessee, as well as the Washington Huskies, a contender or pretender out of the Pac-10. That's tomorrow, 8 Eastern on ESPN.
You know, Corey Weedle made that field goal, made it very easily. He missed 2 crucial field goals in the BYU game last year in overtime. One of them in overtime. He's lived with that all summer.
Dean Miller with his first move. He got away from Robbie Duncan. Finally, they catch him from behind, but 15 yards for number 15. Miller, they feel the guy ready to emerge.
Yeah.
Finally given a shot this year.
Yeah, Cooper really thinks he's been the most improved player on their offensive football team. Came in very highly recruited, didn't kind of blossom as quickly as they thought, but he is ready, as you mentioned, to emerge this year, and they think be a nice compliment to David Boston on the other side.
Last year, the number 3 wide out behind Demetrius Stanley, leading receiver. And again, early flags.
Stanley was trying to check off on that play, went to a longer count.
False start on the offense. 5 yards, first down.
Brooks Burris, the right tackle, jumped a little bit. Take a look at Stanley trying to audible. He's changing the play, and you can see both Burris and the tight end John Lumpkin jump on the right side.
And I'll tell you what, on the other side, Ben Gilbert right there with him pretty much the entire right side for the Buckeyes. Fooled by Jackson's cadence. So 1st and 15 with Miller in motion. First carry of the year for a Jet. Michael Wiley breaks a tackle, reaches midfield before Greg Van Leer rides him down, a gain of 18 for a man who scored on his first 3 collegiate touches last year as a freshman.
Well, Burris and Lumpkin made up for the jump on the previous play. Great block there. The center, Golston, makes a nice block, pulling out in front of the play. And as you mentioned, Michael Wiley with the great speed. They just want to get him in space a little bit, get him out in positions where he can make something happen. They feel he's a guy that every time he gets his hands on the ball, he can take it to the end zone.
I guess so. 8 yards per carry nearly, 32 yards plus per catch. Jackson with a flag down, out of harm's way and out of bounds at the 45 of Wyoming.
Should be a holding on Ohio State. Anytime you see that flag get thrown back in that area around the quarterback's pocket, it's going to be holding on the offense.
Number 94, Jim Collins.
Holding on the offense, 10 yards from the spot of the foul. Repeat, first down.
Let's check in on the sidelines with Merrill Hodge.
David Todd, I'm standing down here with the Wyoming defensive coaching staff, and they are going crazy. The last 2 plays, there's been so many missed tackles. And as they told us yesterday, that is the one thing they want to see tonight is people making good, crisp tackles.
Well, Vic Koenig told us yesterday, Merrill, that they've been practicing form fundamental tackling for 10 minutes at least every single day of summer practice, and he was still worried. He says, just now we're up to average. You better be better than average to play against Ohio State.
David Boston close to moving early. Jackson hanging one up for him, and he got shoved out of bounds pretty obviously by Janae Jackson. So in that matchup, they each have a push-off penalty.
You know, and this was really an unfortunate penalty by Jackson because there was a miscommunication between Boston and Stanley Jackson. Boston was turning this out to the sideline, and Jackson was throwing it down the field. So really an unnecessary penalty by Janae Jackson.
Pass interference on the defense, 15 yards, first down.
Here's the matchup right here. Again, Wyoming thinks that they can play man-to-man coverage on the fast receivers. Watch Boston working on Jackson. That first push is okay, but the second one right there, clearly a violation. The referee right there watching the whole play. You're not going to get away with that one.
Janae Jackson, one of the best athletes ever to come from a Wyoming high school. Football, basketball, track star, football state player of the year, basketball regional player of the year, track state champ in the 100, 200, 110 hurdles, 400 relay. Not time apparently for soccer, but they feel athletically he can keep up with Boston. Michael Wiley cutting back to the middle for about 3. Another tackle by Van Leer, who missed all of last year back after a back injury in the subsequent rehab.
One of the reasons that Wyoming feels that they can be aggressive on defense in a game like this is because their front 3 people, Stuart Hansen, Mike Graham, and Jeff Leonard, are all seniors. They're veteran guys who have been in the system. They're used to being coached in defense. They feel they can hold their own on the inside.
Wiley gets outside. 2 good moves before he's finally cornered by Robbie Duncan near the 26. Good block on that side by D. Miller to give Wiley a little extra room.
Take a look at Ben Gilbert now, 64, as he's going to pull out in front of this play. Good block by the tight end Lumpkin. Gilbert gets the block, and again, with a guy like Wiley, all you need is to get him in space a little bit, and he'll do the rest.
John Cooper will love seeing the blocking by Miller. He looks back at last year and says, really, we were 2 plays away from a perfect season, and they were missed blocks by wide receivers that cost them touchdowns against Michigan and almost cost them the Rose Bowl game. We emphasize that in the offseason, at least in video editing. Jackson sacked, and his first sack back at the 34. Jeff Boyle, a true freshman.
Watch the pressure come from the outside. Now they're bringing both outside linebackers on the blitz, and the fullback's going to get run over here. Matt Keller's just going to get driven right back into the quarterback. and also they were beat on the backside by the tight end. So a good pressure defense that time. It's not a full-out blitz. They're only rushing 5 people, but good pressure from the outside guys getting in on the quarterback.
And they didn't waste any time getting Jeff Boyle in, true freshman out of Norton, Kansas, where he was their Class 3A Player of the Year last year. So make it a 2nd and 15. And the first man through is the backup fullback, Nick Goins, who carried just 12 times last year before a neck injury led to a redshirt freshman season.
Both of the fullbacks listed on the 2 deep for Ohio State, Matt Keller, the starter, and this guy Nick Goins, are really tailbacks that have been turned into fullbacks. They're not the big fullbacks like Matt Calhoun, who they had last year, Nicky Sualua, who they had a couple years ago. They're more versatile type guys, though. They're guys who can run a little bit better, can be used more in the passing game, but they aren't the overpowering fullbacks like they've had at Ohio State the last few years.
3 wideouts for Jackson, who again is chased and escapes. Duncan at last roping into the 18. He may have a first down. And Todd, now twice we have seen what very few on the college level can do from the quarterback spot.
Well, you're exactly right. And again, Stanley Jackson just makes things happen as a thrower, but most of the time even more so as a runner, because he can take a play that's broken down like this one. This was good pressure by Wyoming. They had him dead to rights, and he eludes 3 or 4 defenders and makes a big play.
This is going to be a real close measurement, just outside the 18 and by maybe 1 chain link.
Well, they will go for this one now. This one's no question.
You look up front and see 305, 300, 305, 295, 295. You have to figure you can get a chain link.
And you have a senior center in Eric Golston. I go right behind him, number 50. Just don't even try anything fancy. Just a little quarterback sneak right behind Eric Golston.
Golston, now a senior out of Cleveland, by far their most experienced offensive lineman, which is why they felt he could make the move from right tackle to center, make all the calls that come with playing the center spot.
He played center as a freshman also, so it's not completely new to him. They're trying to draw him offside.
And they drew themselves off. Tyson Walter at left tackle.
I don't understand that.
False start on the offense. 5 yards, 4th down.
You know, they're gonna get on Tyson Walter right here, the left tackle, but I just say run the quarterback sneak. I mean, you're playing at home, your center's a senior, you're much bigger up front than the Wyoming defense, and you're down in deep in their territory. I mean, just run the quarterback sneak and get the first. If you can't get 1 inch for a first down, then you don't deserve to be winning this football game anyway. Wow, that surprises me they didn't just run the play.
So, settling for a 40-yarder by Stoltz is the consolation prize. And Stoltz, redshirt freshman, coming off Graves' disease. 26 pounds underweight. He discovered that, healthy, obviously.
Got that offensive line, just pounded at him. Make the first down. If you score a touchdown, you put Wyoming in a real hole here in the first quarter. As it is, you give them a little life.
So 10-3. Stoltz's kick's getting deeper still. This is Jenkins 2 yards deep to bring this one back. 1 man to beat. Winfield with his 3rd big play of this first quarter. 2 open field tackles and an interception. This after a 56-yard Mike Jenkins return.
Great explosiveness by Jenkins. It looked for a minute like he was hesitating on whether to bring it out or not, but once he got into the wedge, does a nice job just exploding through. You see him break a couple arm tackles. We found out about this guy. He squats over 650 pounds. Great lower body strength, and you could see those arm tackles on his lower body had no chance of bringing him down.
So the Cowboys and Silcox taking over at the 44 of the Buckeyes. On setback, first appearance, Tim Beasley.
Ohio State showing blitz now, and Silcox trying to change the play. Can't afford to get too tricky, though.
As it turned out, plenty of time. And the catch good for the first down for the tight end, Julian Hooker. Let's check into the studio with Chris.
Guys, a busy night for the Mid-American Conference. Northern Illinois making its MAC debut against Central Michigan. This is CMU's Tim Crowley up top to Brian Shorman. The 51-yard pass sets up a 6-yard run by Eric Flowers. Central without their top running back, Silas Massey, up by 17. Back to Columbus.
Well, much closer here, and it's not the 0-0 game that the Cowboys coaches hoped they would see 10 minutes in. Leaping attempt, great layout, but overthrown, intended for Brahms de Renencourt.
They had a shot at it. Ohio State tried to go for the blitz. They went to man-to-man coverage, and Silcox saw it. He read it correctly and took a good shot at it. Again, had to stay in there under heavy duress, just over the outstretched hands of de Renencourt, but really a good shot trying to get it down. Watch the hit by Winfield on the blitz. Silcox does a nice job just staying in there and making the throw.
Stood in tall. Has thrown the one interception to Winfield, who again makes the play almost. This one over the middle is just overthrown, intended for Marcus Brunson. And Brunson with a good 2 steps on his defender. It'll be 3rd and 10.
Ohio State saying right now, as they have crossed into their territory, into scoring territory, if you're going to beat us, you're going to beat the blitz. You're going to beat us against our pressure because we're going to come after the quarterback. 2 plays in a row now, they really have gotten after Jeremy Silcox, and to his credit, he stayed in there and read the coverage correctly.
Cowboys just 1 and 4 so far, converting the 3rd downs. Back to 4 wides. And again the call at the line by Silcox.
Gonna run out of time.
Had to hurry. Catch is made to 25, but absolutely no room thereafter for Kofi Shuck. Winfield with yet another play.
Winfield and Ahmad Plummer did a nice job really stopping this short. It was a good throw and catch by Wyoming, but good solid tackling in the open field by Winfield and Plummer. Stop it short of the 1st down.
And Todd, at this point, first quarter of the season, they don't miss Sean Springs at that spot nearly as much as they no doubt feared they might. Winfield's been outstanding. 42-yard effort by Weedle is no good. He does not miss many. 20 of 27 in an all-WAC season last year.
We talked about it earlier. I mean, he really has been an outstanding kicker in his career. However, in the WAC championship game last year, he missed 2 critical field goals against BYU. The last one coming in overtime, a game they lost by 3 points in the WAC championship game, and he had to live with that the entire offseason. Really was anxious to come back this season and start fresh, and he really nailed that first one that time. Just pulled it a little bit, or actually pushed it because he's a left footer, pushed it out to the left.
Dana Dimmel off long stint at his alma mater, Kansas State, 10 years there on the staff. And a big part of their success, which has amazed the entire world of college football. A lot of people said that was a program that simply would never be resuscitated. They proved otherwise. Their offensive coordinator the last 2 years before accepting the Cowboy job. Pepe Pearson, good for 6 across the 30.
It's interesting, too, even though he was the offensive coordinator at Kansas State, when he came to Wyoming, the first area of that team that he wanted to address was the defense and try to inject some more speed onto the defensive side of the football team. I mean, Kansas State, he knew the reason that they were put on the map in college football was because of their defense. They built a great aggressive defense that kept them competitive. And Damon Dimmel, when he came in, he right away addressed that by putting some speed players over on the defensive side of the ball.
The injured Buckeye is the right guard, Ben Gilbert, who has replaced 3-year starter LaShawn Daniels on that side. Drew Elford has come in to replace Gilbert. Gilbert being checked by the Buckeye trainers. 2:25 to go in the first. Ben Gilbert getting checked on the Buckeye bench. The sophomore guard out of Lancaster, Ohio. Had Greg Van Leer, the Wyoming safety, accidentally roll that left leg a little bit.
Kind of had to be helped off, hobbled off the field. You certainly hope that it's not a serious injury, and I'm sure John Cooper hopes his offensive line is young enough to have to go dipping into the depth chart already this early in the season.
So on 2nd and 5, Jackson with a nice stretching grab by Boston. First down to the 37 in front of Janae Jackson.
Well, this shows you what David Boston can do at 6'3" and 205. This is actually very good coverage by Janae Jackson, but watch him go vertical to make the catch. Catches it with his hands. That's why John Cooper feels this guy can be the next great receiver at Ohio State. He's the total package, the speed, but also the size and the ability to make plays with his big body.
Boston, who a year ago began and ended the year with touchdown catches. First game against Rice, last one won the Rose. They get it to him on a reverse, but not fooled is Josh Amundsen from outside linebacker. Former Idaho Player of the Year out of Twin Falls, dragging Boston down.
Well, Wyoming called a blitz on this play, and they had a chance to really make a big play against this. Janae Jackson came on a blitz and ran right by the play. He actually followed the quarterback, Stanley Jackson. Watch Janae Jackson come on the blitz and then get fooled by the ball handling. He's going to come on the blitz and actually could have made a big play right in the backfield, but he gets fooled on where the ball is and chases the quarterback. That could have been a huge defensive play for Wyoming.
Pearson may have the first. Veering off tackle right into Amundsen again, and Van Leer, who's been in on about every other stop. But I don't think they gave him a very favorable mark here. About a foot shy still, and it'll be third down.
I bet they don't go on a long count this time. I bet Stanley Jackson's going to get him huddled, get him up to the line, and go.
2-yard gain of 46.
Michael headed to the first quarter. And the Buckeyes better than a 4-touchdown favorite. Up by 7. Pearson, sure enough, squeezes through the initial wall inside the 40. And not surprisingly, they seem to go on first sound there. No count at all. 15 yards on Pearson's ramble.
This is typical I formation football. The isolation play, run right behind the double team between the tackle and the guard, lead with the fullback. And nice strength by Pepe Pearson. They actually had him wrapped up a little bit there at the line of scrimmage, able to break the tackle and make a good play. You know, I think Pepe Pearson's gotten kind of a bum rap. A lot of people think he's a little bit maybe overrated because he played behind such a great offensive line, but this guy ran for a lot of yards last year. You don't do that if you're average.
And Keller on a cutback. Great job of seeing where the opening was by the sophomore fullback. Not many carries from that position, and he replaces much bigger men, people like Nicky Sualua, Matt Calhoun. He's about 40, 50 pounds lighter.
This is a play where you want to get the flow of the defense going one way. You're faking the toss to the tailback and then hand it back to the fullback. Good deception that time by Stanley Jackson, faking the toss sweep.
Good for 9. Looked like movement that time on both sides. Left front for both Ohio State and Wyoming jumping. So that stops the first quarter clock at 1 second.
False start on the offense. 5 yards, repeat, second down.
Well, it is opening day, but I've never met a head coach who thought penalties like that were ever excusable, no matter when you were playing.
Well, see, the reason that coaches get so upset about penalties like that, Dave, is because those are mental mistakes. Those are not physical mistakes. Coaches don't get so upset about penalties that are made because a guy's going 100 miles an hour. It's the mental mistakes that drive coaches crazy.
That is the end of the first quarter at Ohio Stadium in the Eddie Robinson Classic. 10-3 Buckeyes. Second quarter of the State Farm Eddie Robinson Football Classic, and the great coach, winningest all-time, honored between quarters by generous gifts by the governors of Wyoming and Ohio. I have to say, Todd, neither one looking especially apropos. Neither the Woody Hayes coaching hat nor the Wyoming Cowboy hat. Exactly his look, but he appreciated the sentiment. So we begin the second quarter with Jackson again having to do it himself, and this time they've got him roped. Jay Wykavich for a big loss back at the 45-yard line.
Well, Vic Koenig has to be very pleased with that particular play because that's the first time that they were able to contain Stanley Jackson. He didn't go down on the first guy, but watch, they got enough people around the football to eventually get him down. Stanley Jackson is going to be very difficult for any one person in the open field. The key is get a lot of people around him, get a lot of white jerseys around him, and hopefully somebody can finish him off. And that time they were able to do it.
And that time Wycavage looking like a guy who spent 10 extra minutes every day, as they all have, working on tackling fundamentals. Boston hits a couple of blocks, sprung inside the 30. Should be close for the first before Brian Lee catches up with it. So they try to get this man the ball every opportunity they can, and as wide a variety as they can.
Well, here's Boston. He's going to run the screen. Watch the lead block here by the other receiver. If you want to run the wide receiver screen, you got to get one good block by the other receiver. He's going to go down and stalk the defensive back. They get one block by the lineman, but the other receiver is the key guy to making that play work. He's got to release into the secondary and tie up one of the cornerbacks.
And it is good for the first. Buckeyes to the Cowboy 28. Delay for Pearson. He's dragged down from behind by Jeff Leonard, their sack leader from a year ago, with as well the top number of tackles behind the line from last year. Ben Gilbert, as you saw, is back in wearing a knee brace, jumped on the fumble, which was after the whistle.
Those are the kind of plays Wyoming needs to make in a game like this. Ohio State's got a little momentum. You cause the fumble, you knock the football out. Wyoming's got to come up with that football. In that case, rather than Van Leer trying to pick it up and run, maybe better off diving in there and just securing the fumble rather than trying to make the spectacular play.
So mark it at the 34. And Pearson again, and again great reaction by the Cowboys, led by Brian Brown. Again to Chris in the studio.
Well, Alabama Birmingham is self-destructing in Lawrence. They had a punt miscue which set up one touchdown run, and then Lee Jolly drops back, casually flips the screen pass out, picked off by Patrick Brown, who goes to the house. Jayhawks 17-0 from the opener for Terry Allen as head coach.
Defender's dream. 3rd and 18 as you look at first quarter numbers. 153 on the ground, very Buckeye-like, and only 22 through the air in Wyoming, with just about the opposite proportion. Also, not surprising, timeout called by the Cowboys with 12:28 in the first half, trailing in Columbus by 7. (10-3) Buckeyes early in the second quarter. Be sure to join us Saturdays following the newest edition of SportsCenter on ESPN at 11:30. College football's most comprehensive and authoritative studio show, College Game Day. Each Saturday, Chris Fowler, Lee Corso, Kirk Herbstreit taking you on a 1-hour journey covering all angles of college football with game previews, exclusive interviews, behind-the-scenes features, and much more. Saturdays, 11:30 Eastern on ESPN.
It's a big play for the Wyoming defense here. They have them where they want them in 3rd and 17. They've got to make a play.
Jackson had time, now chased. Got away from Pat Hirsch. Could not escape at the 50-yard line. Brian Brown.
A little atonement for Brian Brown that time. He was the one who got faked out on Stanley Jackson's touchdown run. That time a great form tackle. Watch again the pursuit. It's not necessarily the first guy that gets to Stanley Jackson. It's the other white jerseys. He's going to make the first guy miss most of the time. But watch Brian Brown get right there, put the headgear right into his chest, and then drive through. That's good form tackling by Brian Brown.
So Bartholomew will kick. And Todd, I tell you what, I think the Buckeye coaches anticipated correctly. Right now, Wyoming looks like the Kansas State defense.
Well, they're getting after him, and they're getting into a little bit of a rhythm. When we talked to Vic Koenig yesterday, he said one of the most important things for them defensively is to kind of get in a flow. That's Koenig right there. Get in a rhythm of moving people at the last second, moving people on the line of scrimmage. In that particular defensive series, they had the upper hand on the Ohio State offense.
Another Wyoming timeout call. And what will be a 4th and 31 boot from Brett Bartholomew. ESPN kicks off the 97 college football season on Saturday at 12:30 when Virginia Tech starts to defend its Big East title against the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers. 12:30 Eastern, and then at 7:30 the Red Raiders of Texas Tech meeting Heisman candidate Peyton Manning and the number 5 ranked Tennessee Volunteers. All on ESPN this Saturday, your home for college football. Not many folks from Wyoming have made it here inside sold-out Ohio Stadium. Those who have like what they're seeing at the moment. Bartholomew. It's a great hop. Winfield, I think, will be, nope, touchback. I thought they were going to give him a down at the 49-yarder, and he missed it by inches. Almost another spectacular play. 11:38 in the first half. Number 9, Ohio State, to battle with Wyoming 10-3 early in the second quarter. Our State Farm students of the game this evening from Wyoming, it's Brian Lee, the senior business management major, a 3.3 GPA and an outstanding free safety. And Jerry Rudzinski from Ohio State, a junior finance major, also a 3.3 grade point average. And respectively, putting on a pretty good show in the first half. As the Cowboys take over following Winfield's narrow miss at Downing that punt inside the 5. Touchback has it at the 20. Montgomery went in motion. Marcus Brigham near the 40 before he is spilled. Wow, let's call his name again. Antoine Winfield. 19-yard pickup for Brigham.
Brigham shows a lot of speed getting to the corner here. Now, nice block coming out in front by Jeff Smith, the right guard. He pulls out in front, but you see the speed of Brigham getting to the corner. That's what Dana Dimmel likes. Watch Katzenmoyer. He's going to take a bad angle on this play. He tries to run through, and Jeff Smith just levels him. Jeff Smith, the strongest guy on the Wyoming team, really put a jolt on Andy Katzenmoyer that time.
Brigham running right into the grasp of Katzenmoyer. About the 44. Matt LeVar as well on the stop.
You know, one matchup that I like, I only saw it one time, is the tight end Julian Hooker working against the outside linebacker Rudzinski. They got him matched up man-to-man earlier in the ballgame. I think that's maybe a favorable matchup for Wyoming right now, and they still haven't tried to get Marcus Brunson, their speed guy, deep against this defense yet.
Well, it could be coming. Jenkins is the setback. And Silcox suddenly short and incomplete as Montgomery turned before he had it.
You ever hear about him talking about a receiver hearing footsteps? That's what Wendell Montgomery heard right there, because all that was a case of is turning to run before he secures the catch. Now they've got the nice play action on the bootleg, and Silcox puts it right where he has to, but watch Montgomery turn his head just briefly before he secured the catch. He wanted to know where that defender was, but first things first, you got to make the catch.
Ahmed Plummer was the defender over in the spot where Ty Howard played so well for so long. Buckeyes have held pretty well on third down. Over the middle, hanging on, the tight end Hooker may have the first down with the spin out of the grasp of Rudzinski. Depending on how good a spot they give him, and they didn't give him a very good one. This is going to be a couple of feet shy.
See, I think this Julian Hooker is a very athletic guy at tight end at 6'4", 238 pounds. He matches up pretty well against these outside linebackers for Ohio State. That's a good guy, I think, that they can go to in the passing game.
Out of Homewood, Illinois, Julian Hooker has brought him close enough for a measurement near midfield.
Probably the first difficult decision in Dana Dimmel's young head coaching career. This is a hard decision for him. His team is playing very well. They're only down by a touchdown. Do you take the chance at midfield to get the first down away from home, or do you punt the football? He is elected to go for it. Well, let's see if he just goes with the long counter, if he actually runs a play.
Yeah, will it be Silcox doing a Stanley Jackson, but on purpose?
He's just trying to draw him off sides. They're not going to run a play.
Well, they did. Wow. And he may have it. I think he does. Dana Dimmel yesterday saying that what his entire staff is all about, and he learned this under Bill Snyder at Kansas State, was trying to be so confident that it has to rub off on the players. They have heard everything about being 30-point underdogs, and he feels if he doesn't show that he believes they can win, there's no way the players themselves can believe it.
Well, they've bought into it. The reason I didn't think they were going to run the play is when you go on a long count like that, it makes your offensive linemen lose that edge up there. They kind of sit back on their heels. That was kind of gutsy going on the quarterback sneak on a long count.
Yeah, in this stadium, not many would have tried that. And Jerry Rudzinski bearing down on Silcox makes him pay with a loss of 6 or 7. Rudzinski, who last started the '95 opener and then a stress fracture.
Watch Silcox go with the play action, and because he was looking at where he was faking the football, he was not able to pick up Rudzinski coming into the backfield. He's got to be able to keep his eyes up and see that blitz coming from the outside. If you've got a play action pass called and there's a blitz, you got to give up the fake and just make sure you protect yourself and get rid of the football.
Those eyes look like they see everything. Recovered from the stress fracture. Then he had Katzenmoyer, who kept him on the bench until tonight. Loss of 7. Winfield Garnett flushing Silcox, who throws on the run. And the diving attempt at the 22 by Durenencourt, who knows he should have had.
Boy, this is a nice job by Silcox. Watch the quick pressure by Winfield Garnett. He gets outside of the pocket and makes a beautiful throw on the run. Boy, that's just a play that Wyoming has to have. I mean, Durenencourt really sold out. He gave up the dive to make the catch, but in a game like this, those are the plays that Wyoming has to come up with in order to have a chance.
Tough to get that wide open twice in a row, but that's what they need on 3rd and 17. All-out blitz. Again, the throw on the run, but nowhere near his intended target this time, Kirby Drew.
But a pretty good job by Silcox avoiding the sack and just allowing his punter to come on and have a chance to really pin Ohio State down deep. That's the opportunity that he got by throwing that ball away and not taking the sack.
Langley's first kick a good one. Second team all WAC a year ago. Austin awaits at his 14. This was a real strong aspect of the Cowboys game last year. Second in the nation in net punting, better than 43 yards per exchange. Clearly low. And Boston manages only the 25 on a 38-yard effort by Aaron Langley. 10-3 for the Buckeyes. We may see Joe Germain coming up here soon. Well, sure enough, Joe Germain makes his first appearance of '97, and a warm ovation greeted him. This is, after all, the crowd's first chance to thank him for what he did in winning the Rose Bowl on the last drive, the Rose Bowl MVP. With those numbers last year, started only one game, the Michigan game, their only loss. And Stanley Jackson, who couldn't move him on the last couple of series, comes out for the first time midway in the second quarter. And right off the bat, a fumble snap, which Germain quickly hops on.
You know, even though Joe Germain played a lot last year and got a chance to play all the time, he didn't take any snaps with Eric Golston before he came in. That probably should have done that on the sideline. He knew he was coming in this series. He probably should have pulled the center over and said, hey, let's just get a couple before we go out there to try to avoid this very thing. You've not been in the game. You're not used to the snap. Very fortunate that he got that one back.
They lost only 2. Play action, his first pass of the year. Somebody is on a different page, either Germain or Boston, who cut off the pattern about 20 yards short of where the pass ended up. Last time Joe Germain was on the field, his New Year's appearance in the closing seconds of the Rose Bowl against then undefeated Arizona State, and the play that won it for Jermaine and Boston, 20-17, and earned them the #2 final ranking.
What a cool customer. I mean, 12 plays, 65 yards. He just directed them right down the field and was unflappable in that winning drive under great pressure.
3rd and 12. Here comes some pressure. And from behind, Pat Hirsch for the sack of Jermaine. Redshirt freshman out of Arvada, Colorado.
See, Wyoming is getting into a little bit of a groove on defense. They're calling things at the right time. They're calling the right pressure packages. And they're really kind of catching Ohio State off guard. And this was what they needed to do. Get into the right kind of rhythm of when to bring pressure, when not. When to move people on the defensive line and when not to. In the last couple series, Wyoming has played outstanding defense.
Pretty good field position out of this exchange. Jenkins at his 35. Bartholomew at his 5. And they wanted to come after him that time. The shortest kick. He manages a good bounce. And Gary Berry's got the 38. So 7:23 to go in the first half with the roll. 44-yarder by Bartholomew. Still 10-3. 10-3 Buckeyes. Brutus and all with a 7-point lead on Wyoming. The Ohio State defense making Jeremy Silcox heighten his awareness, to put it one way. They put a lot of pressure on him.
Well, if you're going to beat Ohio State, this is what you have to beat. Fred Puckett, the defensive coordinator, said, hey, even though we've got 9 new faces, even though we don't have Strawn Springs and Ty Howard out in the corner, we're still going to play the same way. We're going to still attack, play a lot of man-to-man, 35 to 40% man-to-man, and we're going to come after the quarterback. And that's what they've been able to do so far in the first half of play. That's just the way Ohio State has grown to become accustomed to how they're going to play defensive football. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to put a lot of guys around the line of scrimmage, and they are going to attack you in the backfield.
Not too many two-back sets so far. Jenkins, the lone setback here, and Katzenmoyer was there almost as the ball arrived on the handoff. Really his trademark from a year ago. 12 sacks, 85 tackles. Where's it? Archie Griffith, number 45, proudly.
You know, the one thing Fred Puckett told us about, and we asked him, you know, were you surprised at all by what Katzenmoyer did last year as a freshman? So the only thing that surprised me was not his physical ability, but how quickly he picked up what we were trying to do defensively. He just blended right in. This year, he's got to go up another level and really be the leader out there in terms of understanding the defense.
Winfield coming corner blitz, forced the pass to come toward Montgomery before he was ready.
See, this is the NFL version of the zone blitz. They bring man-to-man pressure blitzes, but then they also will blitz from the outside. Now here comes Winfield on the blitz, but watch, they're going to not play man-to-man. They're going to drop into zone. Watch Winfield come on the blitz, but the secondary's dropping into zone, so there's somebody sitting in that hole to double cover that wide receiver. I mean, the Panthers, the Steelers have made that very popular. That's the latest thing to trickle down to the college game from the NFL.
Another blitz, screen, and Jenkins did well to maybe get past the line of scrimmage as Central, McClellan, and Winfield had that one sniffed out.
Antoine Winfield is an outstanding football player. There is not much drop-off with him in the ball game as opposed to the 2 corners they had last year. The screen pass is set up well again, but Winfield just too quick, gets there before the offensive guard Demetrius Hamilton and blows the play up in the backfield. That play looked like it was set up pretty well. Winfield just made a great play.
The injured Buckeye is John Day, the defensive end, 5th-year senior and a 1st-year starter who has backed up Matt Finkus the last 3 years.
I think for John Cooper right now, it's good news and bad news. The bad news is that his offense has not been on track and really playing the way that he expected. The good news is the defense with 9 new starters in there is really playing pretty well. They've done a good job pressuring the quarterback. They've done a good job playing in 3rd down situations and really have made it difficult for the Wyoming offense. Put them in a lot of long yardage situations.
Like this one, and surprisingly, Todd, what we've got is a defensive struggle, which I don't think many expected. Langley's kick is off the side of the foot. And where will they mark this shank? He doesn't do that too often. But the Buckeyes will get a break, although they feel they should get a better spot than 29. ESPN2 gives you a college football doubleheader starting Saturday, 12 noon. NC State traveling north to face Syracuse and Rob Conrad. And then at 6, the Golden Eagles of Southern Mississippi will head to Gainesville and take on defending national champion Florida.
Doug Johnson, the new quarterback down at Florida, had a chance to visit with him about a couple weeks ago. He's very anxious to get started. Southern Miss is they're not an easy team to open up with. They are a team that really competes well against a lot of Southeastern Conference teams. That will not be an easy opener for the Gators.
Well, for a lot of years, they've really been the best program in that state. Jermaine with his second series, and he opens with a grab by Boston at the 45. Marker down at the line. If it stands, it's 17 yards. But it's coming back on holding.
We had two guys back there by the flag. It was either Brooks Burris, the right tackle, number 67, or the right guard, Ben Gilbert. Gilbert back in there after that slight knee injury, has the knee brace on, but he's back there playing now, and that's good to see for the Ohio State fans. But
holding on the offense, 10 yards from the spot. Repeat, first down.
Well, even for a first game, that is a lot of first half penalties. That's 6, in fact, against Ohio State.
I think we're seeing the experience of those front three people for Wyoming, Hanson, Graham, and Leonard, really taking advantage of the youth of the Ohio State offensive line. They're really kind of controlling the action a little bit up here in the second quarter up front.
Where Golston, the center, is the only senior. Matt Keller hoped for a bigger opening than that on a draw, and Brian Van Emmerich was there at defensive tackle. John Cooper coming into this season, 6 wins to pass Earl Bruce for second all-time in Ohio State history. There's a long way to go past there to get to Woody Hayes. He might be Eddie Robinson's age by the time he got there. But a lot of people, Todd, would say he wouldn't have much odds John Cooper even making it to his 10th year. He has done a survivor's job all the way to the Rose Bowl title. Over the middle, and the leaping D. Miller brings it in at the 31. 15 yards.
It all starts with protection. Watch the good solid pocket. This time they give Jermaine a good throwing lane across the middle, and he really fires it in there. Nice catch by D. Miller, shading the defender with his body, staying between him and the football. But good job up front that time, protecting the middle of the pocket for Jermaine.
Big chuckle if they need it, down to 3rd and 8. Line to gain the 39. Pearson back in, fake to him. Jermaine to the side for Boston, and too tall.
I'll tell you what, Janae Jackson is holding his own pretty well in this ball game with David Boston. I mean, Boston has the height advantage. He maybe has a slight speed advantage, but not much. But this is a guy out on an island. There's no help around. There's no other white jerseys around here. That's just man-to-man coverage. Jackson on Boston. And other than that one interference penalty earlier in the first half, he has really held his own against David Boston.
Held him to just 2 catches so far, 23 yards.
I think to play corner in this kind of a system man-to-man, you have to have supreme confidence and a very short memory, because you can't afford to remember when you get beat, because you got to get right back out there on that island.
Right up at the top of the job description for that position. Jenkins. Good special teams coverage by the Buckeyes at the 29-yard line. After a 47-yard Bartholomew punt. Well, coming up on the National Car Rental Halftime Report, we'll look in on the WNBA semifinals, the pennant races in baseball, how they stand tonight, and hear from Chris, Lee, and Kirk. That's not too long from now. 4 minutes and 26 seconds to go in the first half from Columbus.
Ohio State on the sideline, their offense right now. I think maybe in the second half, the guy they maybe need to try to go after the other cornerback, Robbie Duncan, a little bit. Janae Jackson playing pretty well against David Boston. Might be time to try the other side and see what they can get over there.
Silcox, one of the few times tonight, has time, and again throws it behind Wendell Montgomery. Their top returning receiver, 25 catches, about 18 yards per reception a year ago.
Let's go, Small.
Again, Silcox is still having a little bit of a problem looking too long and hard at where he wants to throw the football. He's got to get better and more comfortable with using his eyes to move those safeties and to open up throwing lanes for himself. When you stare down a receiver, those defensive backs are taught in a zone defense particularly to read the quarterback, not read the receivers, watch the eyes of the quarterback.
The wideouts left side looking right, and Mike Patolo out of an ankle tackle to the 35. He was able to break free from Ahmed Plummer, and finally Rudzinski grabbed it. About zeroing in on receivers. So many, especially young and inexperienced quarterbacks, do that. Was that a problem for you? I mean, did it take you a while to develop the ability to look one way and throw the other way?
Yeah, it's definitely something you have to grow into, and you grow into it the more comfortable you get with playing, the more comfortable you get with the offense, because it's only an added weapon that you have as a quarterback. Once you know where your guy's supposed to be, look off the other way and make it easier for both of you.
Brown wanting the Buckeyes to come up with another defensive play. Incomplete. In and out of the hands of the tight end, Sterling Kihei. If he hangs on, he's got the first.
You know, that's about the fourth play that we've seen in the passing game where Wyoming needs to come up with this play. It's pressure defense, it's man-to-man coverage, and it's a perfect throw by Jeremy Silcox. About the fourth ball that should have been caught by a Wyoming receiver that would have gotten them in good field position.
Yeah, so Silcox is 9 for 23, a little bit deceiving.
Yeah, it really is. He's thrown the ball pretty well.
Langley's kick much more like him this time. And Boston, away from the initial hit, is chased out at the 18. 52 yards this time after the shank on Langley's previous effort. First quarter, it looked as if Ohio State would move the ball at will. Wyoming has made some impressive defensive adjustments. And 3 total yards in the second quarter. Not a misprint.
Yeah.
Although it looks like one.
Outstanding quarter for the Wyoming defense. They really have been in a groove. And, you know, the key now is, and whenever you're an underdog team and you've played a team off their feet like they have with Ohio State, they can't afford a letdown here in the last 3 minutes and 21 seconds of the half. They have to continue to play hard.
Well, way too many of those. And apparently, again, going to be early movement for Ohio State.
On the offense, 5 yards, first down.
What you see so often, Dave, is a team like a Wyoming. They come in here into a hostile environment. They play really well. And then right before the end of the half, they give up a cheap touchdown, an easy touchdown. And that could be devastating for Wyoming. They've played themselves into this ball game at 10-3. They just need to keep playing that same style and playing with the same aggressiveness that they have on defense.
This is a defense that last year was dead last in Division 1A in pass yards allowed, over 300 per game. And how they turned it around tonight.
No, Vic Koenig said it was hard convincing the seniors that we needed to change a lot of things. They thought they were successful because the team was 10-2, but the bottom line was they gave up well over 400 yards a game. So they weren't successful from that end of it.
Michael Wiley is dragged down from behind by Jeff Leonard. Leonard behind the line for a lot of his stops last year as an all-Pacific Division selection.
Here's Leonard here. Watch him chase the play down from the backside, gets right into the crease, and just makes a super play coming from the backside. And again, they are in a groove defensively. They're calling the right numbers. They're hitting the right gaps. And it's a lot like executing offensively. When you got a defense like this, you have to execute the same way an offense has to. And right now, Wyoming out-executing Ohio State.
Loss of 1. Jermaine. Boston at the 14. They have not really been able to isolate him deep and make him use the full height advantage over the 5A Jackson.
See, I think they're going to have to reevaluate at halftime and say, hey, look, these corners are a little bit better than we thought, and particularly this guy, Janae Jackson. We're not able to shake him as easily as we thought, and I really think they need to try to attack the other side a little bit and see what Robbie Duncan has, because Janae Jackson has shown that he came to play tonight.
Duncan, Dimmel says, reminds him of Chris Canty, the All-America cornerback he had at Kansas State. he had Pat Hirsch wrapped around his ankles and again tried to go short for Boston. Well, the penalties aren't helping. But at this point, maybe the story of the first half, the ability to adjust by the Wyoming defense. Right now they have the Ohio State offense really just searching.
And they have them going backwards. I mean, that, who would have thought? I didn't think that they would make Ohio State's offense go backwards, but in the second quarter, that's exactly what they've done.
Low kick, and this one off the side of Bartholomew's foot.
This is a great opportunity for Wyoming right here to take over possession around the 50-yard line, and Silcox just has to be very smart. He doesn't want to get greedy. He doesn't want to try to make too spectacular of a play, but this is the best field position they've had here for the last couple series, a chance to put more points on the board before halftime.
So each punter's got a shank out of the way. This one travels only 31 yards. And great shape for Silcox to set up on the Buckeye 45-yard line with 2:27 still in the first half. Todd, all night they've huddled on the side, then come to run the play. What's the thinking?
Well, I think the thinking is to not let Ohio State know what personnel they have. Do they have 3 wide receivers and 1 back? Do they have 2 backs? It's just a way of confusing the Ohio State defense a little.
This is Jenkins trying to get away from Kevin Johnson, but he couldn't quite do it. Johnson back after a redshirt year, started the last 12 games of the '95 season.
Good lateral speed by Kevin Johnson. I'm sure that when Brigham made that first cut, he thought he was going to have a lot of open room to run, and Johnson just ran him down. I mean, just it looked open for a half a second, but then the hole closed very quickly by Kevin Johnson. Again, I think they need to try to get Brunson deep over here on Central McClellan.
Protection for Silcox. Threw it into coverage, though, and the pick by Plummer. Silcox's second interception. Both corners, those two, Winfield and Plummer, have 1 apiece.
Well, he just got completely locked in on Derenoncourt on this play because this was so well covered by Ohio State. He has to go somewhere else with the football, but again, he gets locked in. He's looking there, and that's the only place he's going to look. And there's just no reason he should have thrown that football. He was double covered. And it was too easy for Ohio State. And again, that's the kind of play that you don't want to do here at the end of the half. You've played Ohio State off their feet. You don't want to give them a chance to really put something on you here before halftime. Silcox obviously wishes he had that one back because he just never should have thrown that football into the coverage.
So Plummer has him set up at their 26. All 3 timeouts left and 1:47 to go in the half. Jermaine remains the quarterback. Jackson won the first quarter and a half. Keller is dragged down from behind.
Boy, this Jeff Leonard is playing a heck of a ball game. Again, he's coming from the backside. He's just shooting the gap. He's anticipating the snap count. Watch him from the top of your screen. Number 90 just come right down the line of scrimmage and make the play on the fullback. He looks like a cowboy. Looks like he's wrestling a steer out there.
Jermaine has Boston, and Janae Jackson has him wrapped up, but it's a first down at the 38.
And you see the other quarterback over there is Jay Stoner, and the tight end Julian Hooker were over there talking to Silcox, saying, hey, look, we're still in the ball game. Just keep your head up, keep your confidence. You can make the plays. We're right where we want them. But you just can't afford that turnover late in the half. Your defense has played too good.
Jermaine slips right in front of Stuart Hansen, and Hansen may have had the sack even without the slip. And again, the Cowboy defense stepping up.
The front 7 of the Cowboy defense is playing outstanding in this second quarter, and they have really confused the front wall of the Ohio State offensive line.
Well, the Buckeyes used their first timeout.
We said it at the beginning of the game. The only chance that Wyoming had on this game defensively, they had to be able to play man-to-man coverage so that they could get after them and be aggressive on defense. They've been able to do that. They've been able to play man-to-man coverage with Duncan and Jackson and allow that front 7 to be aggressive. And in this second quarter, they have dominated the action.
5 sacks by Wyoming.
I mean, Orlando Pace didn't give up a sack his entire career. The last 2 years he played at Ohio State, already this new offensive line has given up 5. And a lot of that credit is due to Vic Koenig, the defensive coordinator, calling the right kind of pressure defenses and great execution by the Wyoming front 7.
They led the WAC. Last year they had 3.8 sacks per game, 5 in the first half. More than they probably ever could have imagined. And not too many would have imagined a 10-3 late second quarter score. Ohio State having used its first timeout, they reset the clock. 2 extra seconds, 1:01. And Germain has the screen set up for Keller. Matt Keller, who they will use in that role a lot more than they have his predecessors, Calhoun and Sualua, more complete fullback, if quite a bit smaller than those two. So it'll be 3rd and 10 at the 38 with the clock rolling under 40. And Germain had D. Miller, who stretched but missed the yardage for the first down, about a yard shy as we roll under 30 seconds. And still they have not called until right now the second timeout. Wasted about 5 or 6 seconds there.
And it looked like Cooper didn't want him to call timeout. I think John Cooper realizes his team is in a dogfight right now, but they have 2 timeouts left, and it looked like if they get close to the first down, they have a chance to do something in this 2-minute offense. Cooper thinking probably they were coming up short on the 3rd down. Let's go ahead and run the clock down and punt the ball on 4th down and go into halftime and make our adjustments. Don't give Wyoming a chance to block the punt here, and that's what they exactly did by stopping the clock with 23 seconds.
I think this first half for Cooper has been the confirmation of a lot of worries he had to have in the back of his mind about a young offensive line and the mystery element of the Wyoming offense and defense, much more effective on the defensive side. But I think, and rightfully so, he would have expected just on personnel alone and physical advantages to come out and dominate this game, and they simply haven't been able to.
The way they studied in the offseason and preparing for this game is they watched Wyoming film to prepare for the personnel that they were going to face, and they watched Kansas State film to study the strategy that they might face. But I think the biggest thing that they did was underestimate the quality of the 2 cornerbacks for Wyoming.
And they kick it away on 4th and 1, and another shank, this time off the other side of Bartholomew's foot. Well, the previous one goes 31 yards. This one only slightly better. 34 and 15 seconds left for Wyoming to work with.
Dana Dimel told us that he hoped it would be 0-0 10 minutes into the game. We didn't hit that, but I'm sure if you would have told him yesterday that they would be 10-3 at halftime, he'd have been just as ecstatic. You're right.
He'd take it.
They have really played Ohio State off their feet in this building, and that is something that I'm sure is surprising to everybody.
Listen to the quiet in Ohio Stadium. It was rocking with the 93,000 welcoming the Rose Bowl champs in the first quarter. Not much reason to make much noise in the second quarter. The offense, more often than not, knocked backwards.
Dana Dimel did not lie to his football team. This is not the same Ohio State team that went 11-1 and won the Rose Bowl and finished number 2 in the country last year.
Marcus Brigham with a first down pickup. Clock stopped at 9 seconds. So apparently they might settle for one more of those. Just get the clock going. Maybe not even one more snap needed. They'll head to the locker room and evaluate what they've got. And what they've got, to the surprise of many, at least 93,000 here, is a ball game, and a good one at halftime. 10-3 for 4-touchdown plus favorite Ohio State over Wyoming, as we send you back to Chris in the studio.
Dave, thank you. Buckeye fans not booing their team off the field. Perhaps they have nodded off or they're just in shock. Either Wyoming, guys, is a lot better than we thought. Ohio State has really dropped off from last year, or they just didn't come to play.
Or a little bit of both. Ohio State come out of the first quarter, 175 yards. A team that does that has a tendency to go to sleep, and that's exactly what they did psychologically. The Buckeyes have got to go in and quit screwing around all those passes and everything and run right at them.
Oh, to give Wyoming some credit, because they're taking advantage of an Ohio State team that looks a little bit confused offensively. A lot of minimal mistakes on offense. If you take Stanley Jackson's backyard touchdown that he had, this offense has done nothing in the first half. It's mental mistakes, and I'll tell you what, the longer they're allowing Wyoming to stay in this football game, the more they believe they belong, and now it's a dogfight.
Offense has done something. They've had 6 penalties and 5 sacks allowed, but again, credit that Cowboy defense. A national perspective in college football coming up on our National Car Rental Halftime Report. We'll check in with Tennessee, plus pennant race and college football highlights ahead.
Well, back at still pretty quiet Ohio Stadium, Dave Barnett, Todd Blackledge, Merrill Hodge, 10-3 Ohio State. Both teams have had their halftime to discuss adjustments. No doubt most of the discussions in both locker rooms involving the offenses, as the defenses both ways have played pretty solidly. Corey Weedle's kick is returned by Wiley, who finds a burst when it looked as if they had him bottled up and out of bounds at the 33. Merrill Hodge had a chance to speak with both coaches at halftime.
Guys, Dana Dimel was very pleased with his team, but he said we got to finish and we got to take opportunities and capitalize on the big plays. John Cooper on the other side, very disturbed with the team, extremely disappointed in his offensive line. He felt that offensive line has got to step up and give some time to his quarterback.
And we saw Jackson for most of the first half. Jermaine from middle of the second quarter on. Stanley Jackson with 2 big keepers providing the big play edge in the first half, and he does start the second half.
And this is really a critical offensive possession for Ohio State. They've been in the locker room. They've had a chance to adjust. They need to move the football consistently.
And instead they fumbled the snap. And that's what happened on Jermaine's first snap. So Jackson has the same thing happen. Well, Ohio State runs the ball acceptably for 111 yards, and Jackson had a lot of that. But they throw it for only 80, and the total yardage edge much slighter than what many would have expected. And right there, you circled the biggest problem. They keep stopping themselves.
The penalties and the negative plays have really been hurtful for Ohio State.
With a new wrinkle, option, keeper by Jackson. The new offensive coordinator, Mike Jacobs, he says look for some Jackson options. Stuart Hansen made the tackle. 9 plays went for a loss in that first half, plus the penalties, plus only 2 of 9 third down conversions. And it all added up to a mere 16-yard second quarter.
Right at that front 7 of Wyoming in that second quarter, they really caused problems for the people up front of Ohio State.
They need 7 on third down. Jackson has time, and that one is batted down, almost interceptable by Janae Jackson. And this crowd now going from quiet to dissatisfied.
You know, again, and I said this in the first half, if you want to get the ball to David Boston, if you think he's your go-to guy, your marquee guy, then I say try to put him on the other side of the field or put him in motion, do something where you get him away from Janae Jackson, because right now Janae Jackson is playing with supreme confidence, and he is all over David Boston. And they really have not attempted to go after the other side corner, Robbie Duncan.
And if that pass is thrown over the other shoulder, Boston has the angle he needed. Bartholomew's sails of beauty shanked his previous 2. Jenkins from the 7 with a nice return out to the 20. 57 yards, though, on the boot. Saturday at 3:30 on ABC. The Bruins of UCLA head to Pullman to face Washington State, and Miami will be in Waco to take on the Baylor Bears. Plus regional coverage, check your local ABC station.
Washington State has a quarterback by the name of Ryan Leaf, maybe one of the best quarterbacks that nobody's ever seen in the country. Big, tall guy, looks a lot like Drew Bledsoe, who played there before him, and he is somebody that the pro scouts really think very highly of.
Baylor starts a tough schedule. They also go to Michigan in addition to the Big 12 schedule. High formation. which had mixed results in the first half. Off tackle slant by Brigham for about 3 or 4 before he's undercut by Plummer. And Brigham has acquitted himself, replacing Len Sexton pretty well. 8 carries and 52 yards.
You know, this is a time where Andy Katzenmoyer, I think, has to step up for this Ohio State team and create something. I mean, he is a big play specialist. He made a lot of big plays last year. He feels his team kind of floundering around a little bit, particularly on offense. This is a time when great players step up and make great plays.
Short drop out to the side for Wendell Montgomery.
Speaking of great players, Antoine Winfield is having a wonderful game for Ohio State. We've talked about Danae Jackson, the cornerback for Wyoming. Antoine Winfield has had an equal kind of ball game for Ohio State. Very sure tackler in the open field. He's a tough cornerback. You see, Montgomery's much bigger than Antoine Winfield, but he's not going anywhere once Winfield gets to him.
And it was his first half interception to set up what is so far the only touchdown in this game. Former Ohio Division I Player of the Year. Brigham not close for the first. Couldn't get around Kevin Johnson. And a 3 and out for the Cowboys on their initial second half series. Jeff Wilson over there to help out Johnson.
Jeff Wilson did a real nice job getting penetration into the backfield and just kind of blowing that play up before it had a chance. Did a nice job of just moving his body and pushing his offensive blocker into the backfield.
Junior Aaron Langley had his own shank troubles. Excellent kick. Boston somehow keeps his feet. And a spectacular 1-yard return, 50-yard Aaron Langley kick. Groove made the tackle. Still 10-3 in the third. Really looking like the number 6 and 9 scoring offenses in the country last year, but a lot of changes, and especially from Wyoming, positive changes defensively, keeping this a low-scoring affair. 10-3, 11-20 in the third as Jackson has to look. Finally drops it off for his tight end, and John Lumpkin manages to 32 before Jim Talich makes the tackle. Haven't called Talich's name real often so far. Has a shot, an outside shot at ending this season their career tackling leader.
You know, really the extent of Ohio State's offense has been the creativity of Stanley Jackson, whether it's running when a play breaks down or buying himself some time to make a play downfield in the passing game like he did right there. His mobility is really the only reason Ohio State has been doing anything offensively in this game.
Give to Keller, and Matt Keller, the fullback, will be close for the first down, maybe close enough for a measurement. Keller out of Cincinnati Moeller High School, which has produced so much excellence in football over the years. In addition to Ken Griffey Jr.
They have had a great football tradition at Moeller. There's another parochial school up in the Cleveland area, Cleveland St. Ignatius, that has kind of taken over that mantle as the dominant team in Division I high school football in Ohio. And both those schools have put a lot of guys at Ohio State.
First down, Pearson. Good for about 8. Pepe Pearson has had a rather quiet game. That's only his 8th carry for 33 yards. And right into the tackle by Greg Van Leer, who is down injured. In fact, right there. He missed all of last year because of a back injury. Started the previous 2 seasons. So as they check on Greg, we'll break with 10:15 in the third. Pretty look at evening on the campus here, Ohio State and Columbus. 40+ thousand students strong. Although they're 2 or 3 weeks away from the beginning of class. The 90,000 or so in Ohio Stadium watching Greg Van Leer hop off, and apparently a cramp they're working on the right leg. So Jackson going from the 42, and again trying Pepe Pearson on a 2nd and 2. He may lose one. Another stop behind the line for Leonard.
It appears that part of the adjustment made at halftime by Ohio State, as you take a look at Jeff Leonard, number 90, he was a very active defender for Wyoming in the first half, and he's in there again on this tackle. He's just very good with his hands, shedding the blockers and getting to the football. But the adjustment appears to be that Ohio State has said, we're going to come out and we're going to try to run right at this defense a little more than we did in the first half. They got after us with some stunts and some movements. Let's run at them.
Pearson again. Pepe Pearson in the clear. Stop and go move, and he's out at the 32, chased by Brian Lee. 25 yards, and the first time we really hear from Pepe tonight.
They run, they put the tight end to the left this time, John Lumpkin. They get a good block by the fullback, Keller, and that's all Pepe Pearson needs, the little kick out by the fullback. And again, the adjustment appears that Ohio State said, look, whenever we tried to pass too much or run wide, they were really stunning on us in defense. We've got bigger people up front. Let's line up and let's go right at them, and let's see if we can run straight ahead and get the offense going.
And they said yesterday, we could probably
reset the clock. 9:25.
We could probably do that from the get-go, but what do we gain from that? We got to get ready for the Penn States and the Michigans and everybody else that we have waiting for us. So we want to see what the whole package looks like. Well, they weren't that thrilled with what the whole package looked like in the first half. So the return in the second half to smash mouth Ohio State football.
And if you remember, John Cooper said, well, we want to win the game. We want to beat Wyoming, but we also want to prepare for the season. Well, now I think the priority is back on winning the football game, because Wyoming has been more than they anticipated, I think.
Or at least add to the comfort room, which is very small right now. Michael Wiley. Touchdown. Well, that time Lee couldn't catch Michael Wiley. He is electric, and this one comes 32 yards, and there's their breathing room.
Again, straight running play out of the I formation, running behind the fullback, good block by the fullback, and then just the great speed by Michael Wiley to get to the corner.
Stultz out of Bartholomew's hold to add the extra point. Youngster who last year against Rice scored the first 3 times he touched the ball, and tonight a mere 14 yards per carry and the Buckeyes' second touchdown.
Again, it's 2 tight ends. It's 2 tight ends, power football, lead with the fullback, and then just good elusive running by Michael Wiley. Makes 2 guys miss, and then he's just too fast for the Wyoming secondary once he gets to the corner.
He has been there before for a guy who has not seen all that much action. But he will. And he is tonight, just a sophomore out of Spring Valley, California.
One of the things that Mike Jacobs told us that they wanted to do offensively was to get the ball in the hands of some people that they think could make some plays for him. And Michael Wiley is certainly one of those guys they feel can make plays for him. And every time he touches the football, either as a receiver or a runner, he's exciting.
Good kick by Stultz. And Jenkins has got to bring it out. He was 4 yards deep. But it's a good decision. He reaches the 25. Let's hear from Merle Hodge on the sideline. Merrill?
Yeah, David, Todd, that was an exciting run, but the coaching staff here is still harping on the defense about tackling. Nobody is wrapping up and making the plays. They had him right there at the line of scrimmage, and they let him go.
Well, he will do that to a few folks, and with the quickness that he possesses, you know, you can have great fundamentals and great techniques, and he'll still run past.
Well, the other thing, too, is the advantage of having 2 interchangeable parts at tailback like a Pepe Pearson and a Michael Wiley is you keep that guy in there with fresh legs. You don't get a tired running back. You have fresh running backs running against a defense that's getting a little tired. That's the big difference.
And there's the philosophical change from the first half. 76-yard drive and 68, all but 8 on the ground. Pearson with a couple of nice slashes, and Wiley finished it off from 32. So the Cowboys from their deepest hole with 9:08 in the third. Back to the 4 wide. And they try Brigham on the ground, and there's about 10 yards for Marcus Brigham. Berry with a glancing blow and then wrapped up by Johnson.
I think the umpire made the tackle. He's got the grass on the back of his head to show for it. He really, he really got caught up in the mix here. Watch Brigham, and the umpire right in the middle is going to get blocked into the play.
Oh, good stuff. Outstanding technique. Wrapped him up about waist high, brought him down.
They need to make sure he's okay, because that was he was right in the mix of that play.
Takes a certain kind to want to handle that umpire job, because that could happen to you on any play down there.
So the thing to remember too is he's the only guy out there with no helmet on. Those other 3 guys in the pile, they all have helmets on.
Well, but he's in the stats. He's got 1 solo. Word, by the way, from the Wyoming bench about their safety, Greg Van Leer. It was cramp in the right calf muscle, and he will return. Brigham's run good for the first from the 36. Call at the line by Silcox. This time Jenkins has about 5. So some promise shown by the Cowboy ground game.
I'll tell you what, Jeff Smith is a tough sucker up there, the right guard, number 51, 6'4", 289-pound junior out of Phoenix Christian High School. And he is welcoming the one-on-one challenges with Andy Katzenmoyer. Take a look at Katzenmoyer here. Jeff Smith comes into him high, and Jeff Smith is a strong individual. He is really, when he gets into the body of Andy Katzenmoyer, the big cat can't get loose.
Well, that's an Arizona State wrestling champ in his high school days in Phoenix. He's thrown a few folks down.
It's not like wrestling. They don't hold.
Got it off in time, just trying to run for his life. Wilson, 91, the first man there.
Not a bad play by Jeremy Silcox, though. He knew that he didn't have a chance to make the play. He knows the blitz is coming from the outside, but watch what he does. He avoids the sack and throws the ball away, giving them a chance to come back at 3rd down and try to pick up 7 yards instead of having to pick up 12 to 15 yards. Pretty heads-up play, getting rid of the football by Silcox.
That's Roger Haber, the umpire, apparently okay. Thank goodness. With a pretty good blow. Wyoming has missed their last 8 third-down conversion attempts. Make it 9 in a row. Jenkins wiped out by Johnson and Katzenmoyer. For 6'4", 260, how does he move that quick?
Well, he's got great speed. I mean, that's the thing that's so deceiving by you. And I'm sure that people in Wyoming says we don't see guys like this, linebackers in the WAC, like Andy Katzenmoyer, that are that big and yet can run that well. And then once he gets there, of course, there's a lot of impact at the end of the play.
Langley is on. Buckeye coaches talk about a play in the Rose Bowl where Katzenmoyer laterally runs down Jake Plummer, the Arizona State quarterback, from 30 yards for no gain when it looked like Plummer might take it all the way in. They still can't figure out how he did it. This one rolls dead, 41-yarder to the 15. Katzenmoyer and the Buckeyes feeling a little bit better about things. Showed a couple of hints of in the first half when they tried to be more multiple.
Well, again, they've got the 2 tight ends and 2 backs. Again, it's the power football lineup or personnel to try to go right at this Wyoming defense.
And Pearson will call. Out of an arm tackle to the 21. Driven there by Brian Brown. Well, looks like this series, Todd, same as the last one.
Again, you take a look. Now, this is power I formation football that made Ohio State famous under Woody Hayes. They're just going right back to it. And that's a lot of big bodies flying at you, and then a physical runner on the end of it, and Pepe Pearson.
They don't have the cloud of dust anymore. It's a much better field these days. But the idea is the same. Jackson turning and firing complete. Lumpkin to the 44. 22-yarder back from basketball to take over tight end for DJ Jones.
When you run the ball with some success, it opens up your play action. Here's Lumpkin. He's going to come on the crossing route. Watch the fake to the run, and Jackson comes outside. Watch the linebackers from Wyoming favor the run. They've got to respect the run because Ohio State has run the ball well. That just opens up your play action passing. Good ball fake by Stanley Jackson.
Right back to Pearson. Out of the eye, ran right into the arms of Jeff Leonard.
See, they're also going on a lot more quicker counts, too. Allowing Wyoming's defense to get up there and move around and stunt and stem. They're getting up there. They're getting down with two tight ends. They're balancing up the defense, and they're just getting down their stance and going. It's a good move by Mike Jacobs to kind of neutralize the movement of the Wyoming defense.
Yeah, Vic Koenig is opposite number, the Cowboy defensive coordinator, really with the upper hand in the second quarter, and now we see the answer from Jacobs. Jackson again on the option, and Jackson breaks some tackles and has the first to the Cowboy 46. 12 more yards, the tackle by Tallich.
The reason you want to run a little bit of option is because defending the option is all assignment oriented. You got to know who has the quarterback, who has the running back, who has the pitch man, and when you just mix it in a little bit, it's just a nice variation because it's very hard to defend if you're not used to practicing against. And if you have a guy like Stanley Jackson who is very effective running the football, it's something that really can be a benefit for your offense.
And he is right there with Pearson, just 5 yards behind Pepe. Off the play fake, ready to hang one deep for Boston, but too deep. And Boston, that time, pretty well stride for stride with Janae Jackson.
Now, this is a case where they set up again. The play action sets up the passing game. But what Stanley Jackson has to know, as Boston runs the post, this ball has to be out in here. You can't throw it behind the receiver because the safety's out of the picture. He has exactly what he wants. Boston work on one-on-one. The safety takes himself out of the picture, but the ball's got to be thrown more to the middle of the field so Boston can run under the football and make the catch rather than back over his outside shoulder.
Jackson, for just a brief moment, checked by the trainers, a little bit maybe of a tweak as he turned on the inside shoulder of Boston to try and get in position.
They have not been able to get anything by Boston against Janae Jackson, but with Jackson having to come out of the game for a play, this might be a chance where they try to go after his substitution, a guy who's not been in the ball game. J.P. Williams, number 27, is now taking the place of Janae Jackson. This might be where they want to try to get Boston in a good matchup.
Well, you would think. Although he's pretty quick as well. Former Montana State 200-meter champion out of Billings. Head-to-head with David Boston on the 2nd and 10. Exactly what they were thinking, but it's for Miller, and Dean Miller has the touchdown. Just a different target, same result. 45-yard strike. Jackson to Miller.
See, that's like a shark smelling blood in the water, though. I mean, you've got a guy, Janae Jackson, who has really played an outstanding game at the corner. He's shaken up, and he has to come out for one play. This guy coming off the bench is rusty. He's not loosened up. He hasn't been in the ball game. J.P. Williams, you go right after him and attack and make him make a play, and he wasn't able to do it.
Stoltz for another extra point, and just does squeeze that one inside the left upright.
They're going to get Dean Miller isolated out here on Williams. Right there's the matchup. Now, this is a bootleg, and ideally they're looking to maybe throw short to the tight end, but they're going to take a look deep first to see if Williams Miller gets a chance to get by Williams. Stanley Jackson knew he had a good matchup. There was no free safety help, and he makes a perfect throw to D. Miller. You see the bootleg fake. This is a play designed to maybe throw to the crossing tight end, but the first look is at the deep wide receiver, and when he saw Miller had a step on Williams, he went ahead and gave him a shot. Again, this is a tough position to put your cornerback in, to come in off the bench and defend the deep ball, but that's the way it happens in big-time college football, and Stanley Jackson did a great job of going right after the new guy and making him pay.
Boy, what a time to get thrown into this thing. You always want to play, but you don't want that to happen if that's your only snap. And Jackson, as that was happening, running around behind the Cowboy bench and trying to shake off whatever his problem was on that previous play. So D. Miller, as expected by John Cooper, sure enough, emerging tonight as a wideout threat for the Buckeyes. And this return from the 5. Brigham with a marker down to the 18. Looked like the preliminary signal would go against the Cowboys.
There are multiple fouls, block in the back on a receiving team, and a hold on a receiving team. The hold will be enforced half the distance from the spot. First down.
There's one. There's another. Take your pick. And so they will start from their 6-yard line, now trailing by 21. They had it at 10-3 pretty well into this third quarter, but the Buckeyes in control and the crowd now into it. Brigham breaks one tackle, does a nice job reaching the 10. And Jeff Wilson upset that he let him go. Marcus Brigham has had some impressive moments tonight with his 4.3 speed, 5'11", 202 out of Aurora, Colorado, where so many of the Cowboys have been recruited. Only 4 natives of the state of Wyoming to go into Colorado, California, trying to make some inroads into Texas, which Kansas State recruited pretty well while Bittler was there. Gave him 3. Tries again. 1, maybe 2 this time, and a gang tackle is led by Wilson. Barry also there, along with Katzenmoyer.
You know, one thing that John Cooper and Fred Puckett wanted to get out of this ball game was to try to develop a rotation and find out who their front 4 were going to be on the defense. They lost 3 guys in Mike Vrabel, Matt Finkes, and Luke Fickell that were either 3- or 4-year starters. So, I mean, they haven't had new people at those positions, those 3 down positions, for a long time. So they're rotating a lot of bodies in there tonight, trying to find the top 4 guys or top 3 guys to go with Winfield Garnett.
9 straight third-down conversions, unsuccessful by the Cowboys. Silcox steps up, and incomplete. Incomplete at the 20, intended for Kofi Shuck. Jeff Wilson, who backed up Vrabel much of last year, showing up pretty nicely. He may be one of those 4 that Fred Puckett, the Buckeye defensive coordinator, was looking for.
Good pressure that time. Just really kind of put Silcox in a position where he wasn't able to get his feet squared around to make an accurate throw.
They come after Langley, who's going to keep it and have the first down and a lot more. Langley still going to the 37-yard line, and that was a case of do it or get creamed. Kenyon Rambo knocks him out after a 24-yard keeper. I don't know if you can even call this a fake punt. He had no choice.
Well, I don't know. It looks like No, that was a punt because those guys released downfield, but Langley saw the pressure coming on the inside, and he made an alert play, and the blockers made an alert play adjusting to him. He knew that it was going to get blocked.
17. Percy King would have had the block if he had even thought about it.
Look at him covering up that ball like a fullback, too, putting both arms over it. That's a heck of a heads-up play by the punter, Langley.
Boy, it really is, and maybe the spark that the Buckeye defense has so far this half denied Dimmel's offense. Not the way they planned it. They will take it. And Jenkins breaks some tackles, and he gets into the clear. Jenkins dragged out by Winfield. He reaches the Buckeye 25-yard line. 37 yards for Mike Jenkins, Jr. from Cupertino, California.
This guy's only 5'7", but he weighs 205 pounds, and he squats over 650 pounds. You're not going to tackle him around his lower body with arm tackles. He's too powerful in his lower body, has a low center of gravity, does a nice job getting his shoulders squared upfield and running north and south. That's just a good, strong run by a small guy, Mike Jenkins.
He comes to him from one of the great junior college programs, Coffeyville in Kansas, the national runner-up last year. They try him again, but look too tired. Flag coming down from way behind the play, thrown by the referee for holding.
Again, the negative play that is a really killer. You get a couple good running plays. You've got some momentum. Your punter just made a big play for you. Now you knock yourself back 10 yards and start a little bit in a hole.
Holding on the offense, 10 yards from the spot. Repeat, first down.
Second generation Columbus native, Dana Dimmel. Youngest Division I-A coach by a couple of years at 34. Like the first half a whole lot more than he has enjoyed these first 11 minutes of the second half. A glimpse of hope after the fake punt. Now they back up, and first and long for the third time in a row. They keep it on the ground. Jenkins hit by Damon Moore. We haven't seen Damon a whole lot tonight because of the sprained right ankle he suffered back on August 16th in some of the early workouts.
Well, he's playing primarily in the nickel kind of situations. He's a guy that when he is 100% healthy is a critical guy. One of the 3 returning starters on this defense, and he led the team in tackles last year. He makes all the calls, all the adjustments for the secondary for the defense. So he's a critical guy in this Ohio State defense.
First time a non-linebacker had led Ohio State in tackles since 1970. Second down and 14. Swing pass. This drive is all Jenkins. And he goes straight ahead with that leg strength that you talked about. About a yard shy of the marker to the 16. Percy King and Moore on the stop after he picks up 12.
Nice execution this time. Watch Silcox just get it right over the outstretched arm of LeVar and gets it in the hands of Jenkins. Good block by the tight end out there. Julian Hooker gets a nice block. Sean Glauser, number 71, the right tackle, gets a good block. Good execution on the little quick screen out to the tailback.
So here's a pretty big play. Third and 2. By far the deepest they've been in Ohio State territory this half.
They're already down to 5 on the play clock. They may want to get a timeout here.
Just in time to snap. Jenkins, I don't think gets there.
See, that's the only problem. When he saw the play clock and they tried to hurry up to the line of scrimmage and hurry up and get it snapped, that's a case where you want to make sure you're ready to go on that play. They had 3 timeouts. May have been a case where Jeremy Silcox might have been better off using a timeout there and making sure they were ready to run the play.
Well, 3 doesn't help them a whole lot here, and so they get some power personnel in. Mike Patolo, the fullback.
See, the clock's already down on them again. They're under 8 seconds right now coming out of the huddle. They're taking too much time getting the play called and getting out of the huddle. There he goes.
Barely beat the snap clock. But he did get the timeout with 1:39 in the third, trailing by 21. On the Wyoming sideline, they never hesitated in going for this 4th down and 1. The only question was, would they get the personnel on in time to get the play called in time? And Jeremy Silcox had to burn a timeout with 1 on the snap clock. Now they're ready, but it's a different formation with 2 wideouts.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him go play action and try to throw for a touchdown here either.
Play action. Silcox going to keep it, and Jeremy loses it, coughed it up, rolling at the 7-yard line into Buckeye hands after Silcox appeared to have the 1st down. And they get it back at the bottom of that pile. Somehow the Cowboys wrestle it away after it had rolled into some red jerseys at the 7.
They went with the play action, and this is a play I'm sure they said, Jeremy, look for the big play. If it's not there, you know you can run for the 1st down, but just protect the football as you go for the run. Very, very fortunate that the Cowboys got that ball back.
Since this was not recovered by Silcox, who fumbled it, they will mark it at the 11-yard line. But how the Buckeyes failed to come up with that loose ball, that's really beyond me.
Well, too many, again, you know, you see too many guys that want to pick it up and make a big play instead of just falling on the football, and there were 4 or 5 Buckeyes that tried to make a big play.
Jenkins slips some tackles and has the Wyoming touchdown. And that's one he earned as much as anybody else on that drive. Mike Jenkins finishing what the forced fake punt by Aaron Langley started. And on that drive alone, he carries for 76 and catches 12 yards worth. Who else should have scored the touchdown?
Nice blocking up front, boy, by the offensive line, the center, Jake Korth, the right guard, Jeff Smith. Real nice job opening that hole for Jenkins.
Weedle's extra point is 24-10.
Watch these 2 guys. Watch the center, Jake Korth, and the right guard, Jeff Smith, just open up this hole. The center's going to take Katzenmoyer out of the play. The right guard pulls his man out of the play, and then just good straight ahead running by Jenkins. Again, the lower body strength. You're not going to tackle him down low with arm tackles. Excellent running play by the Wyoming Cowboys. And again, back to the fumble by Silcox. You know, he's filing, he should be filing all this information in his head as a first game as a starting quarterback. Try to look off the safeties. Don't stare down where you're going with the receivers. He's learned that some tonight. When you're running the football in the open field and you're live, you're not used to being live in practice. You got to protect the football. Get the 1st down and then go down, but protect the football first and foremost. He's trying to file all these things, and he'll be much better off the next time he goes out as a starter.
And again, even though it was recovered at the 7, since he was not the man who recovered it, they don't allow you to fumble it forward. So that's why they mark it at the 11-yard line. Didn't matter to Jenkins. He took it on in, and it's 24-10. After 3 Buckeyes surrounded that loose ball, but somehow failed to complete the recovery. Michael Wiley will take this return from the 12. And a 16-yard return by Wiley. Well, if you can't be with us on your couch, join us in your car with College Game Day on ESPN Radio. Join Larry Beal, Mel Kiper Jr., Beano Cook. You will hear live up to the second reports from Saturday's college football action from all around the country as it happens. Our coverage kicks off at 11 Eastern Saturdays, new to the ESPN Radio Network this season. Haven't seen Joe Germain at all this 3rd quarter. Jackson remains the quarterback.
Kenyon Rambo is in the game for the first time up top. They may try to go to him.
Big time speed, just like Wiley. Wiley again. Guided out of bounds by Robbie Duncan. 19 yards.
Really doing a pretty good job running to the left. Good block by John Lumpkin, and again, good block by the fullback. You see Ben Gilbert, number 64, pull around and get a block, and then outside good blocking by the freshman wide receiver, Kenyon Rambo. We know he can run. He wants to get in and try to catch the ball, but the first thing they got to do as a receiver at Ohio State, learn how to block downfield as well. If you want to play, you better be able to block downfield.
That's not too bad. About 15 yards per carry and a touchdown. And it's also, based on his freshman year, not too surprising. Jackson wiped out on the option. One thing about his options, Todd, he never even looks like he's thinking pitch.
No, he likes running with the football. I think he realizes that this is his opportunity to create and to make something happen, but this is a good tackle on the quarterback by the strong safety, Trent Gamble. He's in there. He's assigned to the quarterback on the option, and he really stopped that for no gain at 2nd and 10.
There's Trent, sophomore to Parker, Colorado. Tom Hoying, Bobby's brother and a former quarterback, in now at tight end, his new position. As Jackson goes deep, overthrows Rambo. That's not that easy to do, because he is, in Cooper's word, an absolute jet. A lot of people thought the top high school wide receiver in the country last year.
Again, that's the second time now they've had man-to-man coverage on the post route and had an opportunity to get the ball down the middle of the field. And the first time Stanley Jackson threw the ball back behind the receiver. This time it was a little too far up the field. It's a timing thing, and they're running a lot of receivers in. Ohio State uses their receivers to bring in the plays, and so there's a lot of different receivers, and you have to get the timing and the feel for each individual wide receiver.
Neither team has acquitted itself too well at all on third downs. Ohio State needing almost 12 yards per conversion. And Jackson chased. Gets away from Brown. He turns it up for the first down and knocked out by Gamble.
Take a look again now. Wyoming is in position to make a play on Stanley Jackson. Okay, the first guy's not going to make the play. He can make one guy miss, but right there's a missed tackle. There's another missed tackle by Brian Brown, and then a great block coming back. I think that's a tight end coming back to make a block for Stanley Jackson, but 2 missed tackles leading up to that block really should have stopped that third down play.
Which stopped the clock at 2 seconds to go third quarter. It was good for 16 yards. Jackson now 11 carries for 75 yards. And they want to go reverse to Rambo. Check that speed out. Pretty good tackling that time by Janae Jackson, who has returned. And that ends the third quarter. Ohio State has stretched a 7-point halftime lead in the coaching debut at home of Dana Dimel. Ohio Stadium. The Ohio State campus in Columbus. Dave Barnett, Todd Blackledge, Merrill Hodge. We begin the fourth quarter. The Buckeyes trying to add to a 24-10 advantage. Fake pitch given up the middle for Keller. And the fullback powers ahead near the 30-yard line on a 2nd down and 8. As Ohio State successfully went back to smash mouth Buckeye ball in the third quarter. Had a 24-3 lead. A fake punt, at least in name a fake punt by Langley for Wyoming. Ignited a long scoring drive, capped by some terrific runs by Mike Jenkins. Got the Cowboys back within 14, but on a 3rd and a short 3, they try Wiley, and he spins for a first to the 25.
Ohio State has been almost exclusively 2 tight ends, 2 backs, 1 wide receiver in this second half. That has been the formation of choice for Ohio State, and they've been able to neutralize the Wyoming defense a little bit. It balances up that defense, and it allows Ohio State to just kind of attack running the football either way.
Now, Ohio State, which was held to 16 total yards in the second quarter, I guess made a few adjustments. Look at that, 201 total yards in the third. No penalties. They had 7 in the first half. Only 1 play for a loss. Got some stuff figured out. On 1st and 10, Pepe Pearson for about 5.
And for the first time tonight, I think we're seeing a little bit of fatigue out of the Wyoming defense. Again, they're rotating fullbacks, they're rotating running backs, they're bringing fresh legs against this defense, and for the first time, I think we're starting to see a little fatigue out of the Wyoming defense. You see guys hitting the ground a little more often. They're not getting up off the ground quite as quickly as they did in the first half, particularly in the second quarter. It's starting to take its toll on the Wyoming players.
man through, who is Nick Goins, backup fullback. Ryan Van Everett, backup defensive tackle, brought down Nick, redshirt freshman. Injury redshirt last year. I think that expression on Dana Dibble's face reflects exactly what you were talking about. I think he kind of senses that Buckeye asserting of the physical superiority you were talking about. And so now what do you do? 3rd and 2. Jackson with the pitch to Pearson. Got the block he needed. And then a great job of closing by Brian Lee to apparently deny Pepe Pearson the first down and make it very close when it looked like he'd have it.
I'll tell you what, we have seen 2 great cornerbacks play tonight, or play great, I should say. Antoine Winfield for Ohio State and Janae Jackson for Wyoming gets off the block of Rambo and makes the big hit at the end of that play to stop him short of the first down. Those 2 corners, Jackson for Wyoming and Winfield for Ohio State, have been superb tonight.
Jackson, in the face of a steady diet of David Boston, has held him pretty well under control. 4 catches, 34 yards. On 4th and 1.
I don't think they got it.
I don't think so either.
The key in a short yardage situation is getting penetration by the defense, and I think right over the center, Mike Graham, number 95, got the penetration inside of Eric Golston and stopped the play. Great defense by Mike Graham. Watch Mike Graham right here in the center get penetration into the backfield and just submarine this play. He gets penetration. They stop it at the point of attack. Talich is there to finish it off, number 94, but the penetration on the inside is what allowed that linebacker to flow over and make the play.
So Goins is stopped short, and the Cowboy defense somehow locates a reserve of energy somewhere. And they turn it over to Silcox in the offense at the 17-yard line. The Buckeye D getting a steady diet of Mike Jenkins. Kevin Johnson has had a pretty active last 3 quarters in this ball game. Hit on another tackle after a pickup of 3.
I think they got to try to get the ball in the hands of their receiver. They expect to be their go-to guy this year, Wendell Montgomery, the guy who's going to kind of be the next in line of Ryan Yarbrough and Marcus Harris. He's been very quiet here in the last quarter and a half or so. They got to try to get him the football.
Jenkins in motion out of the eye. As they try, Patolo drags the tackle forward where it appeared he might lose. Katzenmoyer finally finishes him off. And it cost him a shoe in the process. Mike Patolo, senior from San Bruno, California. Really in that backfield for Wyoming last year, it was really just the Lynn Sexton show. Although Brigham had over 500 yards. Sexton did most of the running and a whole lot of pass receiving out of the backfield as well. Now another 3rd down. The Cowboys have unsuccessfully lined up for their last 11.
The good one about this one is that it's short. He doesn't have to hold on to the ball very long. 3rd down and 4. He can get rid of it quick.
But the clock caught him again. And Silcox uses the 2nd Wyoming timeout with 10:25 to go. 24-10 Buckeyes.
ESPN2's presentation of college football is brought to you by Mazda. Experience cars and trucks built with a passion for the road. Mazda. And by Outback Steakhouse. For an Aussie good time over an awesome steak, get to Outback Steakhouse. Outback Steakhouse. No rules, just right.
Good opening night crowd at Ohio Stadium, and another early opener. This is now 3 times in the last 4 years for the Buckeyes to open in August in this first annual State Farm Eddie Robinson Classic. They lead by 14. Cowboys hope they've got it all figured out on a 3rd and 4. And they try Jenkins off the pitch. Katzenmoyer knifes in from middle backer to get him ankle high, and another shoe lost in the scramble. Katzenmoyer showing that Amazing speed at his size of 6'4" and 260.
Very powerful player. He's a big playmaker. You can see his eyes right there reading the quarterback. As soon as he sees where this play is going, he just turns on the jets. And again, he's got that speed at 260 pounds to run that play down. He's just, I mean, genetically, he's a freak. I mean, he's unbelievable that he could be that big and still be able to run that well.
They come after Langley. And it is a pretty good kick. Boston reversing field, but they've got him surrounded at the 31. 39-yarder under heavy duress that time by Aaron Langley. Ohio State in control. Well, by the end of the first half, nobody on that sideline was smiling. It's a little bit different feeling, although the Cowboys still have to feel they're in it. They trail by 14. Long way to go, almost 10 minutes. And we see for the first time this half Joe Germain, who entered in the middle of the second quarter. Off the play fake. Into the air. Catch is made by the fullback circling out. Goins for 26 yards.
You know, this is an outstanding job by Goins adjusting to the football. Watch number 37 go out of the backfield. Now, when the ball's thrown, he doesn't exactly know the angle it's coming. He does a great job adjusting to it and getting the big play. But good job coming out of the backfield, turning his head back to the inside and finding the football to make the catch.
And again, none of the Buckeye fullbacks have the size of the Calhouns and the Sualuas, but they can do different things. Goins that time running out of his own footing. He may lose one. Have the right idea.
Nicky Goins, a very talented player from right here in the Columbus area, played at Dublin-Scioto High School, and his team won the Division II state title his senior year, and as a senior he ran himself for 2,589 yards and scored 38 touchdowns. I mean, this is a guy who was a very talented runner. Now you put a little more weight on him, you put him at fullback, and as you mentioned, he's not as big, but a little more versatile than your average fullback.
Back to his high school number from 36, which he wore last year. Throwing on the run, Rambo, the marker down. And the marker was thrown on a push-off, it appeared.
You know, I think this is going to be offensive pass interference because the other receiver out in the pattern that time for Ohio State looked like he thought it was a running play. He looked like he was getting ready to block Janae Jackson instead of running a pass route. I would expect this to go against Ohio State.
No.
Wrong.
I was right with you. They're going to call it defensive holding.
On the defense, penalty is declined. First down.
You know, that name, Kenyon Rambo, you are going to have a hard time hiding. This, they feel, will be an impact player.
Hard to see where the penalty occurred there, but you see the elusiveness of Rambo and the feeling that they have that when he gets his hands on the ball and gets out in open space, he's really going to be an impact player for Ohio State. You know, you say, how does Ohio State get a guy like Kenyon Rambo out of California, a high-profile receiver? How do you get him away from the glamour teams, USC and UCLA on the West Coast? How do you get him to come to Columbus? Well, all you got to do is look in the NFL on Sunday and you see Joey Galloway, you see Chris Carter, you see Terry Glenn. They have really kind of built a reputation of producing great receivers and sending them to the NFL. That's how you get a Kenyon Rambo.
Headline writers will love it. This is the first attempt this evening. By Joe Montgomery, who has battled back from a career-threatening knee injury, which happened in the first quarter of the Minnesota game last year. So he's fought all the way back through a lot of hard rehab, and he figures somewhere into that mix at tailback.
He was always a fan favorite because of how hard he ran. Reminded a lot of former Ohio State fans of John Brockington, his high, hard running style, and it's good to see him back, even though he's not all the way back.
Michael Wiley's turn. Got out of the grasp of Pat Hirsch, but then Brian Lee's got him back at the 32. John Cooper has sent more first-round picks in the 90s to the NFL than anyone. And just look at the list beginning last year with 2 of the top 3 picks in the entire draft, with Orlando Pace and Sean Spriggs, a Heisman winner from '96, Eddie George, and just a star-studded group beginning with Robert Smith.
You know, and this has helped their recruiting because they basically, other than the quarterback position, have put every position on the football field into the first round in the NFL draft. So they've been able to go out to all kind of people and recruit and say, look, it doesn't matter. This isn't just linebacker you or wide receiver you. We're putting all kinds of positions into the NFL.
12 men.
You know, the other thing, of the 12 first-rounders they've had in the 90s, all but 2 left early.
Yeah.
Which he has turned from a source of frustration into a source of recruiting fodder. You know, you can tell guys that not only am I sending him to the NFL, they're making it, and they don't always stay. In fact, this decade at least, they're usually not staying all 4 years.
Yeah, I think that he has adapted to that as well as any coach in the country. And what they've been able to do is they've been able to reload. And you look at all those players that had at least one, in some cases, in the case of Dan Wilkinson and Robert Smith, 2 years of eligibility left. I mean, John Cooper and his staff have had to learn how to reload and build teams in 3-year increments because they can't keep their best players here.
Jermaine, the inside receiver, Van S. Provit, a redshirt freshman and another Ohio product out of Warren, turns into the tackle of Robbie Duncan. All the skill spots, just an embarrassment of riches. They haven't really been able to work them all in the way they'd hoped. This game has been closer than they thought it would be.
Here's an opportunity for Ohio State to try something that they weren't able to try much last year. Dan Stoltz, they think, has a great leg, has the ability to kick field goals in the range of 50-55 yards. Last year, Josh Jackson never made an attempt, never made a field goal beyond 39 yards. This is something they think will be a huge advantage for him as the season goes on.
This is a 46-yarder and plenty of leg, but plenty left, too. 5:58 to go in still a 14-point game. This is the State Farm Eddie Robinson Football Classic, honoring the winningest coach in college football history at Grambling since 1941, and he is up here with Merrill Hodge. Merrill.
Coach, I know that you're not about awards or honors, but it's got to feel kind of special to have a game named after you.
It really is special, and I'm just so proud of this honor, and man, I accepted with real deep humility that they found it necessary, or they did, to name it after us. You know, I never thought it would happen, and well, you know, nobody said it would happen, but you just go on and work and try to do what you can do. You know, I think this is something new in football. The Pigskin Classic was the first of that kind, and now this is about the second one that being named for Eddie Robinson. And I tell you, it's a good feeling that they thought enough of us to name it Eddie Robinson Classic.
Now, you've seen a lot of things in 55 years of college football. Do you like the direction you see college football going?
Yes, I do. You know, we have the national organization, the NC2A, keeping everything in order, and they do a great job. Without them, it would be bedlam. And the directors and the other persons in the university, they're trying to have good programs and things like that, and the coaches are doing the same thing. I think we're going in the right direction. It's a great game, and I think it should be kept that way. We all should work together to keep it as a good game.
Well, Coach, we thank you very much for spending some time with us, and good luck to you this season.
Nobody has ever coached as long, won as much. I dare say nobody will. 57 years.
You know, the thing is, and I had the great privilege of doing one of Grambling's games a couple years ago in the Heritage Bowl. And not only is he a great coach, but he's a great man. And he's a great teacher. And when he does step down, it'll be a great loss to everybody involved in the game of football.
Incomplete that time, intended for the running court. John Cooper talking about how much he enjoyed coaching with him And Lou Holtz a few years back in the Hula Bowl. And what impresses him most about Eddie Robinson is here's a 78-year-old veteran who, when he goes to clinics, isn't there to schmooze with his buddies. He's down there in the front row taking notes, still trying to learn as much as he can about the sport.
And if you ever see him on the practice field with his players, it's amazing, too, because he's out there coaching the left tackle and he's coaching the backup tight end. I mean, he's a very hands-on. He still likes coaching, still likes teaching individual players.
Silcox on a 3rd and 6. And again, the diving attempt comes up empty for Brahms de Renencourt. Which you would think would just lead to, well, no, they will kick it away. I thought maybe with 5:09 to go, we'll go for it.
You know, I think John Cooper and his staff coming into this ball game tonight had 3 major areas of concern and areas of interest in watching this game. First was the offensive line, second was their defensive line, and then their kind of revamped young secondary. I think that the secondary has played pretty well tonight, particularly Antoine Winfield, and they've been without Damon Moore as a regular. The big question, I think, still has been the offensive line and just seeing that unit gel a little better as they get into the Big Ten part of their schedule. That offensive line is going to have to be much better than they've been tonight.
Yeah, the Wyoming cast offense, which led the nation last year, tonight has been held to 114 yards. 240 or so below what they averaged last year. One thing about Dana Dimmel's baptism by fire, it's a long one and there are no breaks.
Yeah, well, they don't have much time to worry about this game because they play next week against Iowa State. Then later on in September they play Colorado, a very difficult schedule. 13 games they get to play, and they play them with, as you mentioned, without a bye week. So it'll be a very long grind for this Wyoming football team, and that made this game a little bit different. They were scheduled to play on Saturday the 30th anyway against Montana. They just played 2 games earlier.
Goins just back to the line of scrimmage and hit there by Gamble. Now the Ohio State schedule also elongated by this game, but they'll be off entirely for the next 4 days, and then they'll get back together and have sort of a boot camp session for a few days and almost start the whole fall practice session over again.
That's right. It'll be kind of like a second training camp. Very different mentality, different preparation for Ohio State. They'll give all the players off the next 4 days, and then they'll come back and they'll go hard for a week or so and then play against Bowling Green. So it's really like 2 summer practices for Ohio State getting ready for the season.
Germain times it nicely for Goins. And the Ohio State crowd, having just seen Katzenmoyer nailed for a hit out of bounds, they want the same thing on Brian Brown, but there is no flag here.
Ball! I need a ball!
Take a look at the end of the play here. The contact actually started in the field of play, and it just was a momentum thing out of bounds. And good footwork by the coach over there, too, getting those feet out of the ground. That could have been a knee injury for a coach on the sideline.
Did you back up?
Well, Todd, Jackson and Germain worked last year to 11-1, number 2 in the country. Coming into this year, no question they would both play. As a former quarterback, I have a feeling I know your sentiments about a quarterback rotation.
Well, we'll watch this play and then I'll answer you.
Germain with a little option.
I don't like it. And I don't like it because I think that as a quarterback, you want to be the guy. And I think both Stanley Jackson and Joe Germain worked and prepared and competed this summer to be the guy. The upside is you can't argue with the success that both of them had. Both of them were very productive last year. But the big negative, I think, is that the worst thing that you can have a quarterback do is play looking over his shoulder. Play scared that if he has a bad series, if he makes a bad throw, he might be coming out. And it's impossible to avoid that situation when you're playing 2 quarterbacks, when you're rotating. And I think it's probably even harder for Stanley Jackson because he's the guy who starts the game. Joe Germain is always coming in off the bench. It's a little bit easier coming in off the bench than it is to start the game and know at any point you might be out.
Jenkins on the return of a 41-yard boot at 11:30 each Sunday on ESPN. The best pregame show in TV brings you right up to kickoff with 90 minutes of interviews, analysis, the latest NFL news, and more. Chris Berman, Joe Theismann, Chris Mortensen, Tom Jackson, and Sterling Sharp all in the studio. And at 7 p.m. after the games are over, join the gang for all the highlights, news and notes from the day. NFL Countdown in primetime each Sunday on ESPN. Cowboys have kept this one much closer than expected, down to the final 3.5 minutes. And Silcox still gunning to get even closer, but he has been played all night by drops, and Montgomery drops this one. 4 or 5 at least in the first half when they trailed 10-3 and could well have gone in maybe tied.
Yeah, a couple crucial drops there. And Wendell Montgomery, again, he's the guy that they think is going to be the next big receiver there at Wyoming, and has had a relatively quiet evening tonight. That could have been a big catch down the middle for him there.
Second and 10, Brigham. Short gain, if that, for Marcus Brigham. Big Paul Breed, 6'7", 305, junior college transfer out of San Francisco with the tackle. This guy, if his City College of San Francisco statisticians are to be believed, had 7 interceptions, 35 tackles behind the line from the defensive line. Scary.
Well, I read that too, Dave, and I came up with the conclusion either one of two things. Either he has great anticipation of the football to make 7 interceptions, or there were a whole lot of short quarterbacks playing in that junior college league that he played against.
I bet they were all shorter than Paul. And about 100 pounds lighter. So a lot of the folks that they hoped to throw out there and get a chance to use at last are getting a look-see for the Buckeyes. Buckeyes have nobody back, and now Damon Moore runs off the bench and volunteers to be the deep back. I don't know if he was assigned to be there and just forgot or was late. Doesn't really matter. Luckily for them, it's a 61-yard boot, and it goes for a touchback with 2:44.
You know, you mentioned Paul Breed, and he's one of those guys that may figure into the defensive rotation for Ohio State. Another guy that's not in uniform tonight that they think might figure into the mix is a guy named Greg Packnett. He's a true freshman out of Dayton Dunbar, the same high school that produced Big Daddy Dan Wilkinson, and very similar to Wilkinson. He was a late qualifier. He didn't graduate from high school till July 17th. He signed late with Ohio State. He's 6'5", 335 pounds, and they think if they're waiting to get his eligibility from the NCAA clearinghouse, and if he becomes eligible, Fred Puckett says he's a guy that could figure into the 2 deep right away.
Look out. Wiley fights off 25. He really is, as advertised, the threat to go anytime he touches him.
When you have a back like that, it makes your offensive linemen just block a little bit harder, and your wide receivers block a little bit better on the outside, because they know if we just hang in there on this block a little bit, Michael Wiley can take it to the end zone. He can make it a big play. You know, it's interesting. When Eddie George was running, they said, hey, you know, Eddie George is steady. He's a good hard runner, but Pepe Pearson, he's kind of the flashy guy. Now Pepe Pearson's the starter, and they say he's the steady guy. Michael Wiley's the flashy guy.
In and out of the hands of Steve Wisniewski, backup tight end. Yeah, most schools it's the backup quarterback who's the most popular guy. Jermaine's pretty popular, but here with their tailback tradition, whoever is second or even deeper in the tailback rotation is the guy everybody wants to see. And Michael Wiley tonight, with only 9 carries, has 117 yards and a touchdown. Just a sophomore. That spot will be well stocked when Pearson completes his eligibility this year. Wiley cutting back. Duncan, Brown, both ready for it.
Wiley did a smart thing there too, something you like to see out of the young back. He got what he could, and then he stayed in bounds to keep the clock running. You've got the lead, you've got the game pretty much in hand unless something really ridiculous happens. Don't run out of bounds and stop the clock. Go ahead and get what you can, get as much yardage as you can, and then once you see the play's over, just stay in bounds and let that clock keep running. Good heads-up play by the sophomore Michael Wiley.
Has a 32-yard touchdown on his resume tonight. Now up to 121 yards. Third down. Here's Montgomery. with the rebuilt knee. Not quite able to get around Brian Brown. And tonight's National Car Rental Players of the Game are for Wyoming, Mike Jenkins, who has that touchdown pretty much single-handedly on that entire drive for the Cowboys. 9 for 66 and the score. And Wiley now up to 10 for 121 and the 32-yard touchdown. So good nights by the backup tailbacks.
You know, I think when Dana Dimel goes home and when he sits back at the end of this season and thinks back on his first head coaching experience and coming into Ohio Stadium and playing the Buckeyes, I think it'll be a good memory. I mean, obviously he would have liked to come in and get a win in his first game, but his team put up a valiant effort, and this team has absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. And it was a very successful first game out, I think, other than what ended up on the scoreboard for Dana Dimel.
Well, another Griffin at Ohio State. This is Kevin, nephew of Archie. The fourth Griffin to play here in Columbus. Grew up here and then moved out to Redmond, Washington. And back in Columbus, junior wide receiver. Great on the punt coverage team there, downing it at the 6. I don't know if they'll ever run out of Griffins.
I'd say that's a pretty good name to have around here on campus. Archie's still real involved in the athletic department, one of the assistant athletic directors and great spokesman and representative of the Ohio State University.
From his own end zone, Jenkins just stiff arms the first tackle attempt by Ahmed Plummer. That adds to his impressive totals with a 24-yard swing pass.
You know, and I think that one thing that we talked about in this ball game, and they talked about at halftime, I think that this has been a good representation for the Western Athletic Conference in the early part of the season. In one of the first games of the year, a team from the WAC, Wyoming, a team that was snubbed in the bowls last year, came into Columbus, into 90,000 people, and played very well. And for at least 3 quarters or 2.5 quarters, played a top-ranked team in the country right off their feet.
Montgomery hangs on to this one. I don't think any question, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They'll look at this, and I would expect as the year goes on, they'll say, look, here's how we did it. Remember,
right.
We were playing the Buckeyes off their feet, especially that second quarter. This is something they can refer back to and maybe build a whole defensive program. RPM tonight coming up next when we conclude in a little over a minute. Deflection is intercepted and returned by Damon Moore. We didn't think we'd see all that much of him because of the ankle problem. He has made his presence felt.
I think Niall Diggs, number 32, is the guy who's going to get his hand on the football. He's going to cause the deflection. Watch Diggs, 32. It goes right through his hands. He could have had the interception. Damon Moore did get the interception off the deflection. And that's something you work on every day in practice as defensive backs. The tip drill, catching the ball off deflections. One guy tips it, you're there to clean up and make the play.
Damon ought to go give Niall a little shake of the hand. Joe Montgomery. Brought down by Courtney Barnes. They have high hopes for him. True freshman from Burke Burnett, Texas. Well, some iffy moments tonight for the Buckeyes, but they will prevail. Timeout call with 48 seconds. And Ohio State headed to victory in the first Eddie Robinson Classic. Closing moments of the first start by Jeremy Silcox. He'll be under the microscope all year because he does replace the national total offense leader, Josh Walworth. Here's Montgomery again. The numbers will not be that heartening. 15 of 36 with 3 interceptions for Jeremy. What does he do the rest of the year now to try and build from this performance?
Well, first of all, he's got to keep his head up because this is a very important time for Jeremy Silcox because the rest of his team is going to be watching him and how he handles this game, how he handles this individual performance, because one of the key things for a quarterback and being successful is being a good leader, and you earn leadership. And one of the ways that Jeremy Silcox can earn his team's respect is to bounce back from this game and to work hard in practice and try to make corrections. But guys are going to be watching him to see how he responds to what happened tonight.
Montgomery to the 44. As Ohio State can breathe a big sigh of relief with a 1-0 start in 1997. Much closer than expected. Dana Dimel's head coaching debut ends in defeat. But a lot of things he can be proud of in a 24-10 Ohio State Buckeye victory in Columbus. Now for Todd Blackledge and Merrill Hodge, Dave Barnett, so long from Columbus, where the Buckeyes won it 24-10. RPM tonight is next. This has been a presentation of